Chapter 564. Boom! The four symbols coiling dragon pillars stood tall and turned into an illusion, imprisoning a young man of the Bloodline clan. What do you want? The young man was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. Lin Sun didn't talk nonsense at all. With a bang, he knocked the young man out and began to search him. In just a moment, the young man was stripped clean by Lin Sun. In addition to some elixirs and 2 or 3 spiritual weapons, a bone jade talisman caught Lin's attention. This thing was only the size of copper coin. It was very obscure and surged with mysterious patterns. It looked very extraordinary. It seems that this thing is a life-saving treasure like the golden cicada talisman, Lin Sun thought. He slapped the young man of the Bloodline clan awake and began to interrogate him. The young man was not convinced at first and would rather die than submit. But this was not a problem for Lin Sun at all. Lin Sun used some torture methods he learned from the bloodthirsty camp and immediately tortured the young man to the point that he cried for his father and mother. As Lin Sun guessed, this thing was called Bone Spirit Talisman. With this treasure, even if you were killed, as long as a wisp of your soul was not destroyed, you could be rescued and have a chance to be reborn. For example, Shi Jun and Baoya, who were killed by Lin Sun before, were taken away by the power of the Bone Spirit Talisman. They left the secret realm of demons and were taken away by the soul altar set up by the Bloodline clan. Knowing all this, Lin Sun couldn't help sighing with emotion. Both the Golden Cicada Talisman and the Bone Spirit Talisman were good life-saving treasures. Possessing such a treasure was simply equivalent to having a second life. According to the young man of the Bloodline clan, almost all the strong people who entered the secret realm of demons this time were equipped with similar life-saving means. Of course, not every strong person had it. Only the top and the most important people in each clan could have it. After all, the Bone Spirit Talisman was extremely precious and limited in quantity. Even in those clans with great heritage, it was called a treasure and ordinary people couldn't get it. Puff! Blood splashed. The young man of the Bloodline clan was killed by Lin Sun, and the Bone Spirit Talisman was taken away by Lin Sun. This meant that the young man had no possibility of being reborn. When Lin Sun removed the 4-image coiling dragon pillars, he noticed to his surprise that the remaining experts of the Bloodline clan had actually fled towards the peak of the mountain that was suffused with violet gold chi like stray dogs. Obviously, they knew they were no match for him and could only dodge for the time being. What made them the most aggrieved was that the experts of the Dragon Whale clan were still eyeing them covetously at the lakeside. Furthermore, the path to the lakeside was covered with terrifying restrictions. They could only brace themselves and rush towards the purple gold sacred mountain. Little human scum, just you wait. The day my race's holy maiden returns with the opportunity will be the day you die. Hateful, hateful. The Bloodline clan experts cursed angrily as they fled. Clearly, they were infuriated. To chase or not to chase? Lin Sun looked at all this, thought for a while, and finally stopped. The purple gold mountain seemed to be safe, but it was the core of the island at the center of the lake. The killing intent there was definitely even more terrifying. In addition, the holy maiden Lin Lang was also there. Lin Sun didn't want to have a conflict with her immediately. This woman was like a devil, cruel and merciless. Moreover, she had an extremely powerful blood-red bronze bell, which made Lin Sun afraid. The ground was covered with pools of blood and corpses. This area was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The battle started and ended quickly. More than half of the experts of the Bloodline clan were killed on the spot. The scene was tragic and shocking. In front of the lava lake, the experts of the Dragon Whale clan gasped and stared with their eyes wide open. They couldn't believe that all this was caused by a human teenager. Lin Sun ignored them and began to clean up the battlefield. Before long, there were more than 10 spiritual herbs in a cauldron in his hand. These were the trophies of the experts of the Bloodline clan after entering the secret realm of demons, such as Wisteria Snow Ganoderma and Moonlight Grass, which were now in Lin Sun's hands. In addition, there were some miscellaneous elixirs, spiritual crystals, and weapons, which were also unceremoniously collected by Lin Sun. When I reach the Tao Insight realm, I can refine elixirs and further consolidate my cultivation, Lin Sun said to himself. He planned to break through the Tao Insight realm in the secret realm of demons and improve his combat effectiveness as soon as possible. Only in this way could he resolve some unpredictable dangers. Immediately, he looked at the medicine field not far away, and his eyes became scorching. Kylan grass, treasure lamp king ginseng, phoenix tail, thunder spotted bamboo. If he could dig out all the peerless treasures in it, it would definitely be no less than getting a big chance. Lin Sun abandoned all distracting thoughts and began to deduce the restrictive power covering the medicine field. It was extremely dangerous. If he couldn't crack the restrictive power covering the medicine field, he could only stare at it helplessly without getting a chance. As for the purple gold sacred mountain and the mysterious green palace on the top of the mountain, Lin Sun didn't plan to explore them for the time being. His intuition told him that there was not only a big chance hidden there, but also an unpredictable and peerless killing intent. If Lin Lang and the others could get a chance and return safely, Lin Sun didn't mind taking advantage of the situation to rob them, outside the ultimate. Big shots from various clans were waiting and occasionally talking with each other. They were all speculating which clan would gain the most and which young descendant would rise and defeat their opponents. Many big shots from various clans even came to talk to Elder Gao Yang. The reason was very simple. The Holy Land of Spirit Treasure was an ancient orthodoxy that could be traced back to ancient times. Even the native forces in the Soul Oblivion Sea were very clear about the power of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure. I heard that your Bloodline clan obtained a secret map, and it records the secrets of a fortuitous place in the demonic Saint's secret realm. It looks like your Bloodline clan has gained a great advantage in the competition this time. A big shot sighed with emotion. There's nothing to hide. If there are no accidents in this operation, the outstanding young people of our clan will probably get a big chance. The big shot of the Bloody Lion clan looked indifferent with a smile and a trace of pride that couldn't be concealed. Hearing this, other big shots nearby had different expressions, more or less envious, because they all heard that the secret map obtained by the Bloody Lion clan was related to a place of great chance in the secret realm of demons, which was extraordinary. Is it 5 Elements Sacred Island? I heard that it's a herb garden that the ancient demon sage personally cultivated. It has true sage medicine. Elder Gao Yang's words made the other big shots tremble. They were all a little surprised. The herb garden of the ancient demon sage? True sage medicine? Suddenly, the way they looked at the big shot of the Bloody Lion clan changed again. There was even a trace of jealousy in their eyes. Such a great chance could actually be occupied by the Bloody Lion clan. Who could remain calm? The big shot of the Bloody Lion clan smiled without saying a word. In fact, he was extremely proud of himself. At that moment, an altar suddenly lit up in front of him, producing a strange spatial fluctuation. This was a soul altar. When a clansman wearing the soul bone talisman encountered an accident, their soul would be teleported back and appear on the altar. The big shot's gazes immediately became strange. One divine soul shadow after another appeared on the altar. They were all experts of the Blood Lion clan's younger generation. However, they were in a miserable state at that moment, with only a wisp of their soul left. The big shot of the Bloody Lion clan was shocked and involuntarily cried out, "What happened? Ancestor, we've been tricked." Someone cried out. It was Sir Jun, but he was only left with his soul. What did you say? The complacency in the heart of the ancestor had long since disappeared. His expression suddenly changed as he grabbed Sir Jun's neck. Ancestor, we've been tricked by a human youngster. F*CK. He's just a sea of soul brat, but he almost killed all our clansmen. Sir Jun gnashed his teeth, feeling incomparable grief and hatred. Human youngster? Sea of Soul Realm? The big shot of the Bloody Lion clan felt a bit dazed, almost not daring to believe his ears. He roared, "Speak clearly. Ancestor, it's true. We've just entered 5 Elements Sacred Island. We thought." Sir Jun's face was sullen as he quickly recounted the whole story. Hearing this, The big shots of the other clan's expressions became increasingly strange. Many of them had already started to gloat. The Bloody Lion clan's old ancestor's face was ashen. He still didn't believe it. Impossible. He's just a Sea of Soul Realm warrior. How could he resist you? What about Baoya? He has the cultivation base of Heavenly Insight Realm. How could he be defeated by a bug? Ancestor, it's true. Baoya immediately appeared, his voice bitter. His soul was even more miserable, on the verge of collapse. Only a strand of it remained. This was the result of being heavily wounded by the god-devouring bug. Seeing his appearance, the Bloody Lion clan's old ancestor couldn't help but widen his eyes. Heavenly Insight Realm. Still not the opponent of a Sea of Soul Realm youngster. We were too careless. I didn't expect him to be a heaven-defying figure of the young generation. He looks less than 20 years old, but his battle prowess is terrifying. Our people were not his opponent at all, and were killed one by him. Baoya's voice was filled with disappointment and hatred. At this moment, the soul altar fluctuated unceasingly, sending over one soul after another. They were all experts of the Bloody Lion clan. Those who had the soul altar were all elites of the young generation of the Bloody Lion clan. But now, they were killed and their souls teleported back like they were going to a market. It was an incomparably miserable scene. For a moment, the atmosphere was deathly silent. The big shots of the other clans couldn't be bothered to watch the commotion anymore. They were all inwardly shocked, realizing the severity of the situation. A human youngster at the Sea of Soul Realm was so terrifying. He had slaughtered the Bloody Lion clan's young generation into rivers of blood. This was simply too shocking. Who was this youngster? The Bloody Lion clan's old ancestor's face was gloomy to the extreme. Not long ago, he was still complacent, thinking that his clansmen were destined to obtain a great fortune. Who would have thought that such a tragic outcome would occur in the blink of an eye? Chapter 565. Where's Lin Lang? Asked the patriarch of the Blood Lion clan. Before the battle broke out, the glittering jewel saintess had already ascended the purple-gold sacred mountain to fight for the great fortune in the palace. Baoya answered. Then he said hesitantly, but the situation is not good either. The Dragon Whale clan has already blocked the way out of the Five Elements sacred island. It's over. The patriarch of the Blood Lion clan was at a loss. Those were the elites of the younger generation, but so many of them had died. Even Lin Lang had been besieged. The impact was too serious. Not only would they not get any fortune, but they would also lose a batch of geniuses. The big shots of the other clans were all shocked and doubtful. Many of them looked at Elder Gaoyang, because among all the people who entered the Demon Saint's secret realm, only the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land was the representative of the human clan. The young man who had killed so many experts of the Blood Lion clan was probably from the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land. Elder Gaoyang was also a bit stunned. He couldn't figure out who did it no matter how hard he tried. It should be known that among the disciples who entered the Demon Saint's secret realm this time, only Yun Che was at the Sea of Souls realm. The others had already reached the Paradise realm. But according to what Elder Gaoyang knew, although Yun Che's great Tao of Slaughter was overbearing and terrifying, it was impossible for him to kill a Grotto Heaven realm expert like Baoya, unless Xiao Ran and the others helped him. But according to the news, it was clearly a young man who did it alone. Elder Gaoyang couldn't figure it out. Who could it be? Fellow cultivator, the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land is really good. The patriarch of the Blood Lion clan said coldly. He looked at Elder Gaoyang with resentment. This is a common thing. How can there be no losers in the fight for the fortune? Although Elder Gaoyang was puzzled, he didn't show any weakness. I just want to know who that young man is. The patriarch of the Blood Lion clan said in a low voice. The other big shots were also curious. The young man's achievements were too unbelievable. He had defeated all the young experts of the Blood Lion clan alone. They had to take him seriously. I have no comment. Elder Gaoyang's answer was simple and domineering. He wasn't afraid of the threat. Although the Blood Lion clan's patriarch was furious and unwilling, he knew that this was not the time to shed all pretense of cordiality with the numinous treasure Holy Land, so he could only endure it for the time being. He believed that as long as that young man was still in the demon saint mystic realm, he would find out who he was sooner or later. The other big figures also thought so. After all, a Sea of Souls realm youngster was so heaven-defying, simply like a young demonic god. Who would dare to look down on him? The news of what happened here quickly spread to the surroundings and was known by the important figures of the other races. For a time, the discussion about this human youth became a hot topic. Beside the lava lake, Holy Sun, the situation is slightly bad. That human youth is so formidable. If we wait for Lin Lang to return, then he'll probably seize the fortune Lin Lang obtained first. An expert of the dragon whale race furrowed his brows in worry. So what if I take it away? As long as we control the exit of 5 Elements Sacred Island, we can just kill this human youth and snatch the opportunity back. Yu Shaoxing spoke unhurriedly. His appearance was valiant, and his aura was oppressive. He had the air of an overlord of the young generation. Moreover, that woman Lin Lang is not that easy to kill. Although this human youth is powerful, he doesn't have much chance of winning against Lin Lang. Yu Shaoxing had the confidence to say these words because he had exchanged blows with Lin Lang before. He deeply understood how powerful this woman was, and the fact that she had a secret treasure in her hands was even more frightening. Back when they were fighting over the Golden Spirit Treasure Tree, even Yu Shaoxing himself had almost suffered a loss because of that secret treasure. Let's wait. We only need to wait here, and we'll be able to seize this great opportunity. Yu Shaoxing smiled lightly, full of confidence and disdain. The situation before them was indeed very subtle, forming a situation of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Saintess Lin Lang, who was heading to the purple gold sacred mountain to search for fortune, was like the cicada, while Lin Sun, who was guarding the foot of the mountain, was like the mantis. Yu Shaoxing, on the other hand, saw himself as the oriole. Regardless of whether the mantis could eat the cicada or not, he, the oriole, would not let a single one go. As time passed, Lin Sun's brows gradually furrowed. He had long since seen through the restriction covering the herb garden, but he couldn't break it. The reason was simple. The restriction's power was too majestic and powerful, containing the mysterious power of the great Tao. It was sacred and terrifying, not something a Sea of Soul realm warrior like him could break. Even if he wanted to find a way out, he couldn't find one. Without a doubt, this restriction was laid down by a world-shaking giant, and its power was too terrifying. Was he going to give up just like that? Lin Sun was somewhat unwilling. Whether it was the Qilin grass, treasure lamp king ginseng, or even those other spiritual herbs, as long as he plucked one, it would be infinitely beneficial and priceless. How could Lin Sun be willing to give up? He raised his head to look at the purple gold sacred mountain. Saintess Lin Lang and the other bloodline warriors were long gone. It was mysterious and silent, without any signs of movement. On the shore of the lava lake, a group of dragon whale warriors were eyeing them like tigers watching their prey, making Lin Sun involuntarily vigilant. He had just heard that the sapling of the golden treasure tree was taken away by Yu Shaoxing, the holy son of the dragon whale clan. Therefore, Lin Sun didn't need to think to know that these dragon whale warriors were obviously planning to wait there, waiting for him. Fortunately, it was safe to hide on the island at the center of the lake for the time being. Lin Sun stroked his chin and stared at the herb garden, lost in thought. After a while, he suddenly took out the wordless pagoda and released a ray of golden Tao light, which swept towards a Qilin grass mat in the herb garden. At the same time, he was secretly accumulating power, ready to escape and hide. One should know that there was a practitioner who tried to grab a spiritual herb through the air. In the end, before he could even get close, he was killed by a rain of light and turned into a pool of blood. What surprised Lin Sun was that when the golden Tao light swept out, it didn't disturb the restriction in the herb garden. It smoothly swept up the Qilin grass and dug out the fiery soil at its roots. Swoosh! The Qilin grass was swept out, and suddenly there was a colorful rain of light in the void. The divine light fluttered, and the fragrance was intoxicating. There seemed to be a vague shadow of a Qilin appearing, roaring in the wind and clouds. It was a shocking scene. That's Cheeling grass. Peerless precious medicine. Exclamations came from the shore of the lava lake. From here to the island at the center of the lake, the dragon whale warriors could clearly see everything on the island. All of a sudden, their eyes turned red, and their breathing became heavy, salivating. Even Yu Shaosheng, the holy sun, was shocked, and his eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. In just a moment, the scene disappeared because the Cheeling grass and the soil were suppressed in the wordless pagoda. Lin Sun was even more excited now. Who would have thought that the golden Tao light was so magical that even the restriction could be easily avoided? Swoosh! Without any hesitation, Lin Sun once again took out a ray of golden Tao light. Like fishing, it plunged into the herb garden and swept up the Lamp King ginseng. Whoosh! When the Lamp King ginseng was successfully brought out, the void suddenly seemed to be lit up with lanterns that were like small suns, releasing blazing and brilliant auspicious light. A rain of light fluttered in the air, overflowing with a refreshing medicinal fragrance that almost made one's soul sink. Lamp King ginseng? On the lakeside, someone cried out in shock. My God, 18 fruits. Doesn't it mean that it has 18,000 years of medicinal efficacy? Some people swallowed with difficulty, and their expressions were fanatical. That's definitely a herb garden cultivated by a saint, and ancient peerless precious medicine is planted there. Someone shouted, rubbing his palms, and itching to rush up and plunder without restraint. Previously, they didn't expect that there would be any spiritual medicine in a herb garden. But when the two spiritual medicines revealed themselves, they were instantly shocked. They realized that the herb garden on the island at the center of the lake actually hid a fortune. They breathed heavily, their eyes were red, and they couldn't calm down. If it weren't for the restriction on the road, they would have rushed over long ago. What's the hurry? In the end, all of this will fall into our hands. Yu Shaoxing frowned and berated. In fact, he was extremely excited in his heart as well. Merely a single one of such precious herbs could be said to be priceless, and it could only be chanced upon by luck. Yet now, such precious herbs had appeared together in a herb garden. This was too shocking, and it made it impossible for anyone not to be attracted by it. With a Lamp King ginseng in his hands, Lin Sun was even happier in his heart, and he rolled up his sleeves as he prepared to make persistent efforts and go all out. It would be best if he could move away the soil in the herb garden as well. Since it was able to nurture so many peerless precious herbs, it was obvious that the origin of this soil was extraordinary. If he could take it away, then he could try to cultivate some spiritual medicines himself in the future. However, when Lin Sun intended to make another move, a sigh suddenly sounded out. Young friend, please stop before going too far. Along with this voice, an old ape actually appeared in the herb garden. The ape's hair was gray, its eyes carried an ancient aura, and it held a green wooden staff in its hand. Lin Sun was shocked, and he almost couldn't believe it. Who could have imagined that there were living beings in this herb garden? This place was left by my master for his descendants. Although my young master hasn't been born yet, he will need these spiritual medicines to consolidate his cultivation in the future. The old ape spoke with a deep voice. He didn't reveal any killing intent, and his expression was one of vicissitudes, but Lin Sun didn't dare to underestimate him. This old ape seemed inconspicuous, but it gave off an unfathomable feeling. May I ask who your master is, senior? Lin Sun suddenly asked. The old ape shook its head. My master's name can't be mentioned, but I can tell you that this place was personally arranged by my master. It's not a place of opportunity left for outsiders, but a place of cultivation prepared for my master's descendants. Lin Sun was even more shocked. This sacred island of 5 elements was actually prepared by this old ape's master for his descendants? This was too shocking. So, senior, your master is the legendary demonic saint? Lin Sun took a deep breath and asked. No. The old ape's answer stunned Lin Sun. The one who could arrange such a wonderful forbidden place as the sacred island of 5 elements was not the legendary ancient demonic saint? Then who was it? All of a sudden, Lin Sun realized that all of them seemed to have made a mistake. This secret realm of demonic saint didn't seem to be created by the ancient demonic saint alone. Chapter 566. While Lin Sun was still in shock, the old ape suddenly glanced at the wordless pagoda in his hand and said, "Young friend, you would have been killed if not for this pagoda. Please behave yourself." After that, the old ape's figure suddenly turned into a rain of light and disappeared. Along with him, more than a dozen peerless treasures in the herb garden disappeared. Only the horrible prohibition was still there. Lin Sun felt cold all over. What did the old ape mean? Was it because of the wordless pagoda that the old ape didn't attack him? Lin Sun fell into silence. The origin of the sacred island of 5 elements was too mysterious. It was actually a place of cultivation left by a big shot for his descendants, not a place of opportunity in the eyes of outsiders. The old ape was obviously a servant guarding this place with unfathomable strength. But what puzzled Lin Sun was that if the old ape was a strong man from the ancient times, how could it still survive until now? Who was the unborn little child that the old ape mentioned? Lin Sun looked at the purple gold holy mountain, where there stood a verdant and ancient palace. Its surface was scorched by lightning. Finally, Lin Sun decided to explore the palace at the top of the mountain. Perhaps he could find out who the big shot who set up the sacred island of 5 elements was and what secrets were hidden here. Hey, that young man is also climbing the mountain, someone on the shore of a lava lake said, having noticed Lin Sun's action. Is it because he can't wait to compete with Lin Lang for the opportunity? Many strong men of the Dragon Whale clan speculated. They didn't notice Lin Sun and the old ape meeting before, so they didn't know why Lin Sun suddenly climbed the mountain. "Young master, the situation seems a little strange. Should we take action too?" Someone suggested. Yu Shaoxing couldn't figure it out either. But in the end, he shook his head and refused. There are too many prohibitions here and too many dangers. Once we go in, there will be unexpected disasters. We just need to wait here. He wasn't a coward, but he had been deducing and had long judged the danger of this place. If no one had entered before him, he might have taken the risk to explore. But now, the bloodline race's holy daughter Lin Lang and that human youth had already taken the initiative, which was equivalent to taking the initiative. If they went now, the disadvantages would clearly outweigh the advantages, and there would be many dangers. Everyone, get ready and seal off this area. Once they come out, we'll attack immediately. Sucking in a deep breath, Yu Shaoxing gave out an order, his killing intent shocking. Purple gold energy pervaded the air, holy and mysterious. That mountain towered on the island at the center of the lake, rushing into the heavens, incomparably majestic. Along the way, there was no fluctuation of restriction, so Lin Sun quickly reached the top of the mountain and came to the Verdant Palace. The hall was ancient and grand, and it was completely constructed from verdant wood. Even after experiencing the passage of time, it hadn't been corroded at all, and every single inch of it was suffused with an indescribable aura of the Tao. However, this hall wasn't complete. Many places were charred black, as if it had been struck by lightning, and it was filled with an aura of destruction that didn't disperse for a long time. Lin Sun took a closer look and found that the wood of the palace was as verdant as jade, with natural veins like the traces of the Great Way, which was why it overflowed with the aura of Tao. Not to mention other things, just the wood used in this palace was a rare treasure. Whoosh! Lin Sun took out a spiritual sword and struck at a pillar on one side of the palace, intending to cut off a piece of wood to see what was going on. Crack! A green thunderbolt suddenly rushed out from the surface of the pillar, and with a snap, it crushed the spiritual sword into powder and vanished without leaving any dregs. Lin Sun took a deep breath and was secretly afraid. If he had done it himself just now, he would have been mercilessly obliterated by the green thunderbolt. What kind of wood was this? How could it contain the power of the green thunderbolt? Lin Sun increasingly felt that this place was extraordinary. He took a deep breath, circulated his cultivation, and walked into the palace cautiously, not daring to be careless in the slightest. The palace was extremely spacious and enshrouded in mist, mysterious and tranquil. The four walls were engraved with ancient patterns. Unfortunately, most of them were incomplete and blurred, mottled, and collapsed. Only some scenes like the rising and falling of the sun and moon and ancestors offering sacrifices could be vaguely seen. There was nothing worth paying attention to. Soon, Lin Sun was attracted by an altar at the end of the palace. The altar was made of a kind of purple copper and iron. It was filled with purple air, sacred and ancient. Lin Sun approached it and saw that there was a passage at the bottom of the purple copper altar, leading to the underground. Below them was the mountain that was suffused with a purplish gold aura. Below them was the island at the center of the lake, and below the island was the lava lake. Now, in front of such a mysterious ancient altar, there was a road leading to the bottom. What was hidden in it? Lin Sun became more and more curious. The layout of the sacred island of 5 elements was too extraordinary and mysterious. 5 elements were derived, wind and thunder were nurtured, and unimaginable ancient prohibitions were densely covered. All of this was by no means a decoration. It was obvious that it was guarding and nurturing something. And this thing was probably hidden in the belly of the mountain under the palace. Finally, Lin Sun gritted his teeth and decided to go in and have a look. Whoosh! However, as soon as Lin Sun approached, a black arrow burst out from the entrance of the passage, as fierce as lightning. Lin Sun used the ice dragon steps and dodged in a flash. Then, he struck with the broken blade, sweeping towards the entrance. Boom! The place was bombarded by the dazzling starlight, and then a scream sounded. Oh no! The young human is coming. This was the voice of a strong man of the Bloody Lion clan. Lin Sun's lips curled into a cold smile. He thought of Lin Lang, the saintess who came here earlier, and those strong men of the Bloody Lion clan who fled here after being killed by him. Whoosh! Lin Sun's figure flashed into the passage, and he saw a stone step leading straight down. The slope was steep, as if there was no end. In the twinkling of an eye, Lin Sun saw the figure of a strong man of the Bloody Lion clan madly running down. Obviously, he knew how powerful Lin Sun was, so he didn't dare to fight him head-on and went down to ask for help. Lin Sun took a deep breath. His whole body glowed as he operated his cultivation to the extreme. Then he displayed the ice dragon steps and rushed down like a ghost. Whoosh! On the way, a long golden stick appeared and smashed towards Lin Sun's head. It was powerful and fierce, wrapped in blazing brilliance. Lin Sun seemed to have foreseen this. The broken sword swept out and cut the long stick in half. Then, with a puff, the strong man of the Bloody Lion clan, hiding on the side, was also killed. Lin Sun didn't look at it and continued to go down without any delay. Puff, puff, puff. Along the way, some strong men of the Bloody Lion clan who were hiding attacked from time to time, but none of them survived. They were killed by Lin Sun decisively. Not long ago, Lin Sun had witnessed how cruel and callous these guys were. They forced the captured practitioners to die as cannon fodder. Therefore, at this time, Lin Sun would not be soft-hearted. Before long, the straight stone steps disappeared, and a palace built in the belly of the mountain appeared, overflowing with brilliant holy light, as bright as day. Here he comes. That guy's coming. Damn it, we must stop him. The noise resounded in the palace. Some strong men of the Bloody Lion clan held their weapons and stood there to defend, no longer evading or retreating. However, when they saw Lin Sun's figure, their faces were still a little pale, and their eyes were gloomy and cold, burning with hatred. Today's plan was extremely smooth, but they never thought that everything would be ruined by the young man in front of them, who almost defeated them and caused heavy losses. At the same time, they regretted it. If they had known this, they would never have caught this young man as cannon fodder at will. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret now. After arriving here, Lin Sun didn't immediately take action, but looked around. There was actually a palace at the center of the mountain, and it was suffused with a pure and brilliant glow, causing it to seem extremely mysterious and gorgeous. There was no doubt that the so-called great fortune must be hidden here. In the depths of the palace, there was an ancient Taoist platform, which was obviously a place for meditation and cultivation. But at this time, there was a 4-foot-high jade on the platform. The jade was filled with the chi of the 5 elements, which was magnificent and colorful. It turned into a rain of light, and it could be vaguely seen that there seemed to be a creature sleeping inside the jade, which looked extremely mysterious. Around the Taoist platform, there were numerous chains crisscrossing, and even the Taoist platform and the mysterious jade were covered by the chains. The most shocking thing was that the chains seemed to be made of real iron, and they emitted terrifying restrictive fluctuations. At this moment, there was a slender figure sitting cross-legged in front of the Taoist platform. Her back was facing everyone, and her blood-red hair was soft and smooth like a waterfall. Obviously, it was Saintess Linlang, but at this moment, she seemed to be completely unaware of everything around her. She sat there cross-legged, and a blood-red bronze bell revolved above her head, and it was surrounded by an inexplicable aura of the Tao. And in front of her floated a scripture that seemed to be made of gold. The most shocking thing to Lin Sun was that the scripture seemed to have a mind of its own. It struggled ceaselessly and erupted with a dazzling rain of light. But along with the obscure fluctuations that spread out from the blood-red bronze bell, the struggle of the scripture was instantly suppressed, making it unable to break free. There was no doubt that Saintess Linlang was using the power of the blood-red bronze bell to suppress and collect the golden scripture that seemed to have a mind of its own. Lin Sun's eyes suddenly narrowed. This scripture was absolutely a supreme opportunity, and it was very likely that it contained the inheritance of the master of the sacred island of 5 elements. Clang! With a clear sound of the broken sword, Lin Sun decided to take action. "Don't come over!" Those strong practitioners of the Bloody Lion clan shouted. They were obviously protecting Saintess Linlang. "Get lost!" Lin Sun didn't say any more nonsense. His figure was like an ice dragon, and he dashed over in a domineering and disdainful manner. A fierce battle broke out in this palace. Lin Sun used all his strength, and like a demon, he carried out an absolute crushing attack. For a moment, the strong practitioners of the Bloody Lion clan were almost killed on the spot, which made Lin Sun's combat power even more terrifying. Seeing that the strong practitioners of the Bloody Lion clan were about to be killed by Lin Sun, an extremely cold voice suddenly sounded. "Taoism peer, are you really going to kill all of us and make life difficult for our Bloody Lion clan?" Chapter 567. His voice was full of killing intent and threats. Lin Sun didn't know when the Saintess turned around and glanced at Lin Sun with a pair of cold eyes. However, she was at the critical moment of suppressing the golden scripture and had no time to spare to attack him. She could only threaten him with words. "I've already killed him. Why should I be afraid of your threats?" Lin Sun looked calm. As he spoke, he continued to kill and set off a bloody scene. "You're courting death." Linlang was so angry that her face turned livid. She gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. However, she couldn't spare any energy to deal with Lin Sun at the moment. She could only bear it for the time being. But in her heart, she had already sentenced Lin Sun to death. Without the slightest hesitation, she concentrated on suppressing the golden scripture and circulated her entire strength. She even didn't hesitate to execute numerous secret techniques and spit out a mouthful of blood essence, causing the might of the blood-red bell to become even more terrifying, and it suppressed the golden scripture to the point it was powerless to struggle and could only wail. Clatter, in next to no time, the golden scripture fell silent, and then its pages loosened up and started flipping through the pages. Bright golden light of the Tao flowed within it, and it was filled with obscure and profound ancient markings of the Tao that seemed lifelike like earthworms. Saintess Linlang was overjoyed. She realized that the scripture was about to be subdued and become her possession. Swish! However, at this critical moment, a ray of Taoist light swept over and firmly wrapped around the scripture. Dark golden light. Lin Sun had made a brazen move after killing the experts of the Bloodline tribe. He wanted to seize the opportunity to seize the scripture. Originally, he wanted to kill Lin Lang first. However, he knew that this woman was extremely terrible. If he couldn't kill her with one blow, it was very likely that an accident would happen, and he might even lose the scripture. "You're courting death." Lin Lang was so angry that her eyes were about to burst into flames. The blood-red bronze bell above her head emitted a strong sound wave that spread out to imprison the scripture and prevent it from being taken away. But what surprised her was that the dark golden Tao light couldn't be shattered. What treasure was this? Lin Lang's eyes instantly locked on the wordless pagoda in Lin Sun's hand. She realized that it was also an incredible secret treasure, and its power was no weaker than her blood-red bronze bell. Boom! She waved her sleeve, and a rain of blood-red swords poured out like a waterfall. The swords were surging with terrible power. At the same time, she controlled the blood-colored bell and used all of her strength to seize the golden scripture. Lin Sun sneered. He held the broken sword in his hand, and the dazzling starlight saber chi spread out, dissolving the bloody sword rain. At the same time, he also activated the dark golden Tao light, wanting to take the golden scripture, not giving an inch. It seemed easy, but in fact, Lin Sun's chi and blood were tumbling all over his body. He was so uncomfortable that he almost coughed up blood. Saintess Lin Lang's attack was so terrible that it contained the power of the Great Way. Although he had resolved it, he was still shocked and almost injured. This made Lin Sun even more afraid in his heart. Although this female devil was only at the initial stage of Tao Insight Realm, her combat strength was extremely strong. Perhaps she was on par with figures like Xiao Ran, Su Xingfeng, and Zhao Jingxian. Saintess Lin Lang's heart was even more shaken. A mere sea of Soul Realm youngster had easily dissolved her killing move. She almost couldn't believe it. Who is this guy? When did such a freak appear among the human race? Boom! Saintess Lin Lang's body was overflowing with bloody light, surging like a vast ocean. Her power became more and more terrible. She realized that the problem was serious, so she had to kill Lin Sun as soon as possible. A bloody rain of light that was filled with the miraculous power of the great Tao descended like a bloody cloud. The void was chaotic. Lin Sun tried his best to resist and used the moon-reaching style, but he was still shaken to the point that his chi and blood were surging. His face was pale, and he almost coughed up blood. But in the end, he resisted and didn't suffer a disaster. At the same time, Lin Sun gritted his teeth and waved his hand to release a swarm of spirit-eating bugs, which turned into a black light and rushed towards Saintess Lin Lang. But to Lin Sun's surprise, the spirit-eating bugs, which had always been successful, were blocked by the sound wave of the bloody bronze bell before they could get close. They couldn't go any further. This was the first time that the spirit-eating bugs had been blocked. Obviously, the bloody bronze bell was too magical and powerful. The power it released was not something that the spirit-eating bugs could resolve at all. Clatter. Saintess Lin Lang attacked again. The bloody light surged like a blood river from hell, trying to drown all the creatures in the world. Lin Sun didn't dare to neglect and tried his best to resist. Rumble. For a moment, the palace was full of bloody light and saber chi. The sky was dark and the moon was dim, which was a horrible scene. While fighting fiercely, both Lin Lang and Lin Sun didn't give up fighting for the golden scripture. One controlled the bloody bronze bell, and the other controlled the wordless pagoda. No one could get the golden scripture smoothly, and they were in a stalemate. My friend, why don't you retreat for the time being? I promise I will let you go this time and won't embarrass you. What do you think? Lin Lang said anxiously. Lin Sun's strength was beyond her expectation. If this continued, there would only be more variables. Why don't you give up and I will let you leave alive? What do you think? Lin Sun was unmoved. While talking, the two fought fiercely for dozens of rounds. Although Lin Sun could barely resist, his face was pale, and he almost coughed up blood several times. This demoness was too powerful. In terms of foundation and combat power, she was obviously better than Lin Sun. If Lin Sun also stepped into the Tao Insight realm, he might be able to suppress her. But he couldn't do it now. It was difficult for him to fight back, let alone suppress her. He could only barely protect himself. This made Lin Sun a little anxious. If this continued, he would only become more and more passive, and it was very likely that he would lose this fight. I have to use some special means. Lin Sun secretly gritted his teeth. Almost at the same time, Lin Lang also made a decision in her heart to kill Lin Sun at all costs. Die, old toad, it's up to you. The two of them attacked at the same time. Lin Lang raised her hand and shot out a strange bloody thunder bead, which was flowing with dense electric arcs that made people's scalps numb. At the same time, the handsome and evil Jean Dui in a green robe appeared. He seemed to have been depressed for too long. As soon as he appeared, he couldn't help laughing wildly. Boy, you made a wise decision this time. With me, who in the world can compete with me? Ouch! Damn you! How could it be the heavenly blood thunder bead? When he caught a glimpse of the bloody electric arcs, Jean Dui immediately screamed. His hair stood on end, and he covered his head and scurried away like a rat. Who is it who used such a taboo killing weapon? Ioyo, mother of asterisk her, this prince is going to die from anger. This prince is going to die from anger. Jean Dui was flustered and exasperated. His skin was scorched black by the bloody lightning, and he was in a mess like burnt charcoal. Where was his handsome and unruly demeanor? Lin Sun was also speechless. He had already discussed with Old Toad that if he could get the golden scripture, Old Toad would let him study it together. Who would have thought that as soon as this guy appeared, he would be struck by the lightning and scurried away like a rat? He couldn't do anything right. Saintess Lin Lang also widened her eyes in shock. That was the heavenly blood thunder bead, her trump card. An ordinary Tao Insight Realm practitioner would have been struck to death. Who would have thought that the guy in the green robe would be able to withstand it? Although he screamed again and again, he didn't die. This was too horrifying. Who was this guy? Why couldn't the heavenly blood thunder kill him? His vitality was too heaven-defying, wasn't it? Bitch, how dare you bully me like this? Just you wait, I'll strip you naked, hang you up, and beat you so hard that you'll kneel down and call me uncle. Jean Dui screamed and cursed angrily, as if he was in a rage. However, his curses were directly ignored. At this time, Lin Sun and Lin Lang were fighting fiercely again. Both of them knew that neither the heavenly blood thunder bead nor Old Toad could play a role. They were the ones who would decide the outcome of the battle. Kill. Their fierce battle became more and more fierce. At the same time, they also had to fight for the golden scripture. The situation was extremely dangerous. However, neither of them expected that during the fierce battle, a chain suddenly gushed out of the quaint Taoist platform, shining with magnificent Taoist light. It suddenly joined the battle, bound the golden scripture, and was about to bring it into the Taoist platform. This change was so sudden that they were caught off guard and almost lost the scripture. Damn it! With a tacit understanding, the two stopped fighting at the same time and began to fight for the golden scripture with all their strength. Both of them realized that something was wrong. It was as if the creature sleeping in the jade Taoist platform had awakened a trace of consciousness and couldn't tolerate them taking the golden scripture away. Moreover, the colorful chain was extremely terrible and full of restrictive power, so they didn't dare to be distracted to fight. Crack! Crack! In the void, the golden scripture was imprisoned there. The sound waves of the blood-colored divine bell, the dark golden light of the wordless pagoda, and the magnificent chain on the Tao platform bound the golden scripture together. They pulled at it from 3 different directions, and it was actually in a stalemate. Damn it! If it weren't for you, this scripture would have fallen into my hands. Lin Lang gritted her teeth, and her beautiful face was livid with anger. If your Bloody Lion clan hadn't gone too far, how could I have been involved in this? What's more, this scripture is ownerless. It belongs to whoever can grab it. It's useless for you to hate me. Lin Sun looked calm and didn't give in. Don't worry. When I get this treasure, I'll capture him personally and torture him until he begged for death. Lin Lang gritted her teeth with infinite hatred. Lin Sun was about to say something when there was a sudden change in the field. The magnificent chain suddenly exerted force, and the golden scripture was torn apart with a series of cracking sounds. It turned into 3 parts and was swept away by the 3 parties. Clatter, the incomplete golden scripture was suppressed into the wordless pagoda by the black golden Taoist light, which made Lin Sun slightly stunned. Then his face changed, and he shouted, "Old Toad, run! This she-devil is going crazy." As he spoke, he waved his sleeve and wrapped up Jean Duyi, who was screaming and running, and stuffed him into the wordless pagoda. Then he rushed out of the palace. "Want to leave? Impossible. You must pay for what you've done today." Lin Long's face was livid and cold. She hated Lin Sun to the extreme. How could she let Lin Sun go? Chapter 568. Lin Lang, the saintess, was about to go mad with anger. She had always been the top talent of the Bloodlion tribe since she started her cultivation. Wherever she went, she was respected. Even the big shots in the tribe had to be polite to her. Who would have thought that she would be cheated by a human teenager today? Not only were the experts of the Bloodlion tribe killed, but even 1/3 of the mysterious golden scripture was taken away. How could she not hate him? The most humiliating thing was that the teenager was only in the sea spirit realm. Boom! A horrible wave spread from Lin Lang. Her beautiful face was full of cold, killing intent. Her beautiful eyes were full of killing intent, and her blood-red hair was flying in the air. She looked like a female devil. However, when she was about to kill Lin Sun with all her strength, a sudden change occurred. On the quaint Taoist platform in the depths of the palace, the crisscrossing magnificent chains all shook. An angry roar came from a piece of jade covered by the chains. "How dare you rob me of the inherited scripture? Both of you deserve to die." The voice was as tender as a baby's. It was extremely sharp and full of endless resentment. As soon as it spread, the whole palace shook violently. Thousands of magnificent chains roared and suddenly rose into the air, rushing towards Lin Lang. At this moment, Lin Lang and Lin Sun both gasped as they sensed an unprecedented sense of danger. "Go!" Lin Sun didn't dare to hesitate. He ran the ice dragon steps to the extreme and disappeared from the palace in a flash. Damn it! Lin Lang was so angry that her nose became crooked. She had planned to kill Lin Sun. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? Boom! A chain, like a divine chain, full of horrible Taoist light, slapped at Lin Lang. Lin Lang used the blood-red bronze bell to resist. Even so, her pretty face turned pale and she almost coughed up blood. She immediately sobered up from her anger and fled with all her strength without hesitation. The change in the palace was too horrible. It was as if a horrible creature had awakened from its sleep. If she stayed any longer, she might suffer an unpredictable disaster. Outside the verdant palace, as soon as Lin Sun escaped, he heard an earth-shattering roar. The hall was shaking, and the purple gold holy mountain was shaking violently. Not good. Lin Sun's face changed again. He didn't dare to stay any longer and rushed down the mountain like a flash of lightning. Behind him, Saintess Lin Lang also rushed out. Her blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and her pretty face was ice-cold. However, she was clearly aware of the danger. She couldn't care less about attacking Lin Sun anymore. Instead, she began to flee with all her might. Rumble, amidst the terrifying shaking, the verdant, ancient palace at the peak of the mountain actually began to sink, producing a terrifying green lightning luster that caused the sky and earth to change color. In the end, the purple-gold sacred mountain began to emit surging holy light, and the entire mountain began to sink. Then, the lava lake began to boil, creating terrifying waves of fire. The island at the center of the lake also began to crack, turning into pieces of broken rocks that began to sink. This was too terrifying. The entire 5 elements sacred island underwent a shocking change. It sank into the lava lake and produced terrifying, destructive fluctuations of restrictions. Damn it! What's going on? Could it be that Lin Lang has triggered some taboo energy that has caused this place to undergo a shocking change and is about to be destroyed? At the lakeside, All the experts of the Dragon Whale clan were terrified to the point of retreating far away. Their expressions changed indeterminately, as they were deeply afraid of being affected by the terrifying energy of destruction. There is utterly no need to doubt that, not to mention them, even a king was bound to be unable to escape death if he was trapped within it. The energy of destruction was too terrifying and beyond imagination. It caused this expanse of the heavens and the earth to fall into great chaos. It was like the end of the world had arrived and the Grand Tao was collapsing. Yu Shaoxing was surprised and bewildered as well. But right after that, a wisp of dark blue and cold light suddenly shot out explosively from his eyes as he shouted loudly, "Prepare for battle!" Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a figure charged out from the side of the Five Elements sacred island like a bolt of lightning with an unbelievable speed. Even then, Yu Shaoxing was still able to recognize it. Shockingly, it was that human youth. The saintess of the Bloodline clan is behind us. It's she who seized the great fortune of this place and caused this calamity. Lin Sun shouted loudly before he even arrived, and it caused all the experts of the Dragon Whale clan to go into an uproar. They'd guessed since the beginning that all this shocking change was probably related to Lin Lang. Now, Lin Sun's words had undoubtedly verified their guesses. On the other hand, Lin Lang, who'd similarly fled from the Five Elements sacred island, was just about to catch her breath. Yet when she heard Lin Sun's words, she instantly seethed with rage and felt extremely unwell. Framing, and causing trouble to others? This human youth is simply too despicable and shameless. Friend, no matter who seizes the fortune, you should stay here for now. Yu Shaoxing spoke coldly. As he spoke, he gestured to the nearby clansmen and ordered them to move out together to stop Lin Sun. At the same time, he attacked brazenly to kill Lin Lang. Whem! A snow-white trident forged from dragon bones soared into the sky and gave rise to a myriad of mysterious markings and symbols as it swept out in a wide arc. This was a secret treasure called the Dragonbone Halberd. It was the ancestral weapon of the Dragon Whale clan, and its might wasn't inferior to the blood-red bell in Lin Lang's possession. Obviously, Yu Shaoxing realized that the situation was tense, and he'd utilized his full strength as soon as he attacked. On the other side, Lin Sun was surrounded by a group of experts of the Dragon Whale clan. These fellows had been accumulating strength since a long time ago, so how could they allow Lin Sun to seize the opportunity to slip away? Instantly, a fierce battle erupted in this expanse of the heavens and the earth. Lin Lang controlled the blood-red bell as she fought Yu Shaoxing, and they fought to the point the heavens and the earth dimmed in color. It was an extremely intense battle, and terrifying chaotic flows of energy surged, causing the scene to be astounding. One of them was the Bloodline clan saintess, the other was the Dragon Whale clan's holy son, and they both possessed secret treasures. Now that they were fighting each other, it was simply an unprecedented battle that belonged to the younger generation, and it caused one's heart to palpitate. On the other side, Lin Sun felt even more pressure. There was no lack of experts of the older generation at the Heavenly Insight realm amongst the experts of the Dragon Whale clan. Now that all of them were attacking him from all sides like a swarm of bees, it was obvious how terrifying it was. Lin Sun could only rely on the profundities of the ice WYRM steps to barely deal with them, yet he was unable to kill his way out of the tight encirclement in a short period of time. Stinking bitch, looks like these fellows don't intend to let us off. Why don't we join forces for now and kill our way out first before settling the enmity between us? Suddenly, Lin Sun let out a long howl. His entire body glowed as his broken blade swept out horizontally, and it slashed a snake spear into pieces. Even though he was unable to break out of the encirclement, his might was domineering to the extreme, and it was impossible to suppress. All right, come over here. Let's deal with this Yu Shaoxing together. Saintess Lin Lang agreed very readily. Even though she hated Lin Sun to the point of gnashing her teeth, she knew that only by choosing to cooperate with Lin Sun at this moment would they have the hope of killing their way out. Instantly, the expressions of Yu Shaoxing and the others changed. If these two fellows were to join forces, then they might really be able to kill their way out of the tight encirclement. All of you stop that kid with all your might. Don't let them converge by any means. Yu Shaoxing shouted in a deep voice. He was slightly anxious in his heart. Kill. How could the experts of the Dragon Whale clan dare to be negligent? All of them surged with murderous intent as they exerted all their abilities to obstruct and besiege Lin Sun. Come over here. I can't leave. If you don't come over, then none of us will be able to escape. Lin Sun shouted loudly. Damn it! Saintess Linlang was so angry that the corners of her lips trembled, and she cursed in her heart. But she had no choice but to fight Yu Shaoxing while drawing closer to Lin Sun. How could Yu Shaoxing allow the two of them to converge? He was instantly enraged, and he circulated his full strength. The dragon-bone great halberd shone brilliantly like a scorching sun, and it possessed boundless might, causing Saintess Linlang to be in an extremely passive position. Puff! In the end, she was struck by the great halberd, and she coughed up blood as she sustained serious injuries. But she took advantage of this opportunity to draw closer to Lin Sun's battlefield. Kill! She let out a long howl as her blood-red hair danced in the wind. She raised her hand to summon the Duqian Blood Thunder Bead, and it released tens of thousands of thunderbolts that rumbled as they struck down at the experts of the Dragon Whale clan. Scram! Lin Sun also attacked. He let out a loud shout, and his back arched abruptly as he executed the negative body strike. A series of muffled bangs rang out. Some of the experts of the Dragon Whale clan behind Lin Sun had never imagined that Lin Sun would possess such a terrifying and peculiar secret technique. They were instantly sent flying, and they coughed up blood continuously. The originally tight encirclement was instantly torn open by a crack. Whoosh! Whoosh! How could Lin Sun and Saintess Linlang miss such an opportunity? They executed their movement techniques at the same time and escaped through this crack. A bunch of trash. Quickly chase after them. Yu Shaoxing was so angry that his face turned ashen, and his hair stood on end. He raised his great halberd and chased after them. But the experts of the Dragon Whale clan were all dumbfounded, because after they escaped from the encirclement, Lin Sun and Saintess Linlang seemed to have a tacit understanding, and they immediately separated, fleeing in two different directions. Which one should they chase? Trash! What are you still standing there for? You guys go after that kid. Leave this woman to me. Yu Shaoxing roared, and his voice surged like thunder as he madly chased after Saintess Linlang. He also felt very depressed. Originally, the situation of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, had given him an absolute advantage. Who would have thought that a shocking change would occur on the sacred island of 5 elements, and he was caught unprepared. When he was about to intercept Lin Sun and Saintess Linlang, he did not expect that the mantis and cicada, who were like mortal enemies, would actually join forces in order to escape. All of a sudden, the entire situation was a mess. One could imagine how sullen Yu Shaoxing felt. On the other side, Lin Sun used the ice drake steps with all his strength, and his figure flickered like a dream as he fled. Behind him, a large group of experts of the Dragon Whale clan began to chase after him. Lin Sun was also a little depressed. He had just resolved the crisis brought by the experts of the Bloodline clan, and now he was being targeted by the Dragon Whale clan. This made Lin Sun very angry. Did they really think that Lin Sun was a soft persimmon that could be kneaded at will? Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll play a big game for you. Lin Sun changed from fleeing to secretly gnashing his teeth. Damn it. Really damn it. At the same time, Saintess Linlang, who was being chased by Yu Shaoxing, was about to go mad with anger. She gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. The price that the Bloodline clan had paid today was too tragic. They were almost completely annihilated. What made Saintess Linlang the most furious was that even now, Yu Shaoxing was still chasing after her like a ghost. This was simply too much. The sapling of the Golden Treasure Tree was also stolen by this guy in a sneak attack. Chapter 569. The sacred island of 5 elements had disappeared. The entire area had collapsed. The verdant palace, the sacred mountain of purple gold and the island at the center of the lake had all sunk into the lava lake. In the end, even the lava lake had sunk and disappeared. However, in the depths of the ground, there was an ancient platform floating in the air. Dense chains crisscrossed on it, and the aura of the great way lingered around it. A jade stone filled with chaotic aura stood on the platform. A living being was floating in it. Beside him, there was an incomplete golden scripture and an old medicine that looked like a horned dragon. I'll remember you. You can't escape. How dare you steal the fortune that belongs to me? When I'm born, you'll all die. A sharp and angry voice came from the jade stone. Then, the voice disappeared. Everything fell into silence. The area was shrouded in darkness. Vaguely, an old ape's figure appeared. It stood in front of the platform and stared at the living being that had fallen into a deep sleep in the jade stone. Fortunately, the sacred medicine that Master left behind is still here. After a long time, the old ape sighed. He thought of the handsome young man and the octagonal 9-story pagoda in his hand. Is it that pagoda? It still exists, the old ape murmured in his heart. Then, his figure turned into a rain of light and disappeared in the darkness. In the vast desert, an illusory figure fled like lightning. It was extremely fast and disappeared in a flash. Not long after, a group of murderous figures appeared. They covered the sky and the earth and chased after the figure. They were naturally Lin Sun and the Dragon Whale clan powerhouses who were chasing after him. Boom! Not long after, Lin Sun suddenly stopped and took out the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars. He instantly trapped a Dragon Whale clan powerhouse who was chasing after him in an illusion. Not long after, the Dragon Whale clan powerhouse with an illusion was killed. Lin Sun sat on the ground and gasped for breath. His face was pale. He had used up a lot of energy. There was a hint of exhaustion between his eyebrows. But Lin Sun didn't dare to relax. He took out a bottle of medicinal pills and swallowed them all. Then, he began to refine and recover. This pursuit lasted for a day and a night. On the way, Lin Sun was like a premeditated hunter. Every once in a while, he would take out the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars to kill the lone dragon whale. The 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars were quite wondrous. They could create illusions that isolated the outside world. For the time it took to make a cup of tea, even a King Realm expert wouldn't be able to break through. With this treasure, Lin Sun killed 7 or 8 strong practitioners of the Dragon Whale clan along the way, including an experienced Tao Insight Realm cultivator. However, Lin Sun didn't feel good either. The continuous battle and escape had consumed a lot of his energy, and he had suffered a lot of injuries. He had no time to recover at all. Moreover, although the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars were miraculous, their power would gradually weaken after the time it took to brew a cup of tea, and they would be destroyed by the enemy. The worst thing was that the enemies would take advantage of this opportunity to lay a trap and besiege him. When Lin walked out of the 4 pillars, he would suffer a comprehensive attack. Almost all the injuries Lin Sun suffered along the way were caused by this situation. Boom, boom, boom. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Lin Sun, who was meditating and recovering, was awakened. He instantly knew that the enemies were besieging the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars again. They've gone too far. Lin Sun also gnashed his teeth with hatred. If he had the peak strength, he wouldn't be afraid at all. He could sweep and crush all the enemies. But now, he had accumulated injuries and consumed too much physical strength. It was impossible for him to fight recklessly. Otherwise, he would be in danger of dying. When I get out of trouble this time, I must find a place to break through to the next realm. As long as I reach the Tao Insight Realm, why should I be afraid of Lin Lang and Yu Shaosheng? Lin Sun got up, took a deep breath, and took out the broken sword. His face had become as calm as ice and snow. As long as he was ready to fight, he wouldn't be affected by any distracting thoughts. This was the fighting consciousness that he had honed in the bloodthirsty camp. When he left the illusions, Lin Sun turned over his palm, and a bright red fruit like a lantern appeared. It was as brilliant as the scorching sun, gushing out essence and overflowing with intoxicating fragrance. A fruit of lantern king ginseng. Without hesitation, Lin Sun opened his mouth and swallowed it. When he was chased before, he didn't want to waste such a miraculous medicine. Even if it was just a fruit, its value in Lin Sun's heart was more important than those opponents. But now he was in an extremely bad condition. Once he encountered any danger on the way, it would definitely be fatal. Therefore, at this moment, he didn't care about wasting it. He decided to swallow the precious medicine and finish the battle at one stroke. Boom! As soon as the glittering fruit entered his mouth, Lin Sun felt like there was a new sun in his body, releasing terrifying medicinal power and replenishing his strength at an incredible speed. It was too huge and pure. The medicinal power was not violent, but it was strong and surging, which made Lin Sun feel so comfortable that he almost moaned. Moreover, all the injuries he suffered were healed in an instant, which was like a miracle. It's said that a drop of lantern king ginseng juice can instantly restore a dying person to the peak state. Now it seems that it deserves its reputation. Taking a deep breath, Lin Sun felt the strength in his body boiling like a volcano, and he felt an unprecedented strength. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Lin Sun withdrew the 4-image dragon pillars and rushed out with a broken sword in his hand. He's out. Kill him. This time, we can't let him escape again. Little bastard, go to hell. As soon as he appeared, there was a burst of cursing from all directions. A group of strong practitioners of the Dragon Whale clan surrounded Lin Sun, with killing intent lingering around them like ferocious devils. And when they saw Lin Sun, they attacked at once. Boom! All kinds of weapons glowed and released dazzling rays of light, pouring down like a tide. The power seemed to break and destroy this area, which made people scalp numb. There was no need to doubt that if it was any other cultivator here, they would definitely be killed on the spot before they could even react when they were suddenly attacked by such an overwhelming attack. However, Lin Sun had already prepared for it. Naturally, he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Open! He shouted, and the broken sword swept up the dazzling starlight. With a move of embracing the moon, a holy moon rose in the field in an instant, shining brightly and illuminating the mountains and rivers. Rumble! At this moment, the attacks that covered the heavens and the earth were broken through like paper by the bright moon, and they transformed into a rain of light that scattered in all directions. Some experts of the Dragon Whale clan weren't able to dodge in time, and they were even struck by the aftershock. They let out shrill cries, coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, and almost lost their lives. With a single strike, he destroyed a myriad of techniques. Shocked and furious cries resounded in the surroundings. Obviously, they didn't dare believe that the young man they'd clearly pursued to the point of being heavily injured and on the verge of death would erupt with such a terrifying combat strength at this moment. At this moment, Lin Sun's black hair was casually tied behind his head. His face was handsome and calm. His black eyes were like bolts of lightning, and his entire body emanated an aura of supremacy and transcendence. The broken sword in his hand let out a clear howl that was like the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. It surged through the surroundings, and it caused his imposing aura to be even more boundless. He was like a young genius with an extraordinary bearing. Why has his imposing aura become different? He's countless times stronger than before. Someone exclaimed with shock while his expression turned grim. The other experts noticed it as well, and all of them revealed gloomy expressions. Who cares? Let's attack together and kill him, someone shouted loudly. Pooh! However, as soon as he finished speaking, Lin Sun swiftly appeared before him like a phantom, and then he raised his sword and chopped off a bloody head. I originally had no enmity with all of you, yet all of you pursued me all the way here, and you've simply gone too far. I can only send all of you on your way today. Lin Sun's voice was calm, yet it revealed peerless killing intent, and it seemed as if it covered the heavens and the earth as it enveloped the surroundings, causing even space to wail. All the experts of the Dragon Whale clan gasped. He really has become stronger. Kill. They attacked in unison, and they didn't dare slack off in the slightest. This pursuit caused them to be exhausted and exhausted, and if it wasn't for them knowing that Lin Sun was heavily injured and on the verge of death, they would have almost given up. But never had they imagined that Lin Sun would recover to his previous state in such a short period of time, and he'd even become stronger than before. This caused them to realize that the situation was bad. Bang! This expanse of the heavens and the earth was in chaos, and world-shaking explosions rose and fell. Surging rays of light raged and swept through the surroundings, and an area of over 5 kilometers in the surroundings was completely transformed into a scene of desolation. Lin Sun's figure flickered both horizontally and vertically as he moved about in the sky like an ethereal rainbow. The broken blade in his hand flowed brilliantly with starlight, and it carried a heaven-defying ferocious aura that sprayed out in all directions. One after another, the experts of the Dragon Whale clan were annihilated, and shrill cries, curses, and screams of terror rose and fell. The scene was too bloody, and it dyed this expanse of the desert red, and it was a horrifying sight. What was overbearing? At this moment, Lin Sun vividly displayed this word. He swung the broken blade while his figure moved like a bolt of lightning, and he moved about the battlefield like a peerless all that swept through all obstacles and was unparalleled. He'd been pursued all the way here earlier, and a great deal of rage and hatred had accumulated in his heart. Now that his strength had recovered, he naturally wouldn't show mercy. Flee! It wasn't long before the remaining experts of the Dragon Whale clan collapsed. They couldn't endure the pressure of approaching death, and they let out terrified cries before starting to flee for their lives. How could Lin Sun let them off? He executed the Ice Drake steps and chased after them before continuing his slaughter. Pooh! As soon as a practitioner set up the escape light, he was cut in half by a wisp of saber chi, and his blood poured down. Boom! On the other side, a woman wrapped in a divine glow was sneaking carefully. But in just a moment, the divine glow around her was smashed, and she was killed in the battlefield. Hurry up! Go and meet the son of the saint. The eyes of the Dragon Whale clan widened. They were frightened and helpless. Like stray dogs, they were chased by Lin Sun alone. Lin Sun followed them unhurriedly, but he replaced the broken blade with the insignificant bow and held it in his hand. Buzz! The bow, which seemed to be composed of white bones, had a kind of rough and ferocious aura. With Lin Sun's strength, the blood-red bowstring was pulled to the fullest, making a buzzing sound like it was about to drink blood. Whoosh! A wisp of an ethereal spirit arrow flashed out soundlessly, and it penetrated the head of a dragon whale expert 3 kilometers away, causing an expanse of horrifying yet beautiful scarlet-red blood to spray into the air. Lin Sun didn't even look at it. He hooked his fingers and pulled the bowstring to the fullest again. Like the god of slaughter from hell, he was on a hunt all the way. Chapter 570. Bang! 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 The invisible arrow shot out like a stream of light shuttling through the void, but it had no color or fluctuation. It was silent and scary. In the distance, some strong practitioners of the Dragon Whale clan were shot to death. Some of them didn't know what was going on before they were pierced through. The spiritual arrow was too mysterious, silent, and hard to be found by the naked eye. It was like an invisible assassin appearing out of thin air and taking away people's lives when they were caught off guard. At this moment, holding the bow, Lin Sun's vision suddenly became very clear, as if he could see through the secrets of the world. At the same time, his consciousness also fell into a state of absolute calmness, as if he had no feelings. This was the insignificant bow. Lin Sun got it from an assassin nicknamed Residual Wind when he was in Mist City. The bow was originally sealed in a gray eye, and Lin Sun found it by accident later and took control of it. Its power was extremely obscure and terrible. It could affect the mind and occupy the practitioner's will. If it weren't for the suppression of meditating magic, even Lin Sun couldn't resist this power. If one perceived it carefully, He would fall into a dream as if he came to a barren gray plain with a bough suspended under the sky, releasing a cold aura that deterred all things. Lin Sun still clearly remembered that he had witnessed a strange phenomenon at that time. The sky there collapsed, and a mountain-like ancient dragon turtle appeared out of thin air. As soon as it appeared, it roared and smashed the mountains and rivers with monstrous power. But when the big bough suspended in the sky appeared, an invisible spiritual arrow shot the ancient dragon turtle to death in an instant, and the world was dyed red with blood. The silent, weird, and domineering scene didn't cause an earth-shattering roar, but it had a soul-stirring deterrent force. It was also at that time that Lin Sun knew that the bough was called insignificant, which was also obscure and mysterious. Now, Lin Sun hunted down those strong practitioners of the Dragon Whale clan with this bough. He could kill them with one shot without fail. Every time he attacked, he would definitely kill one of them. It was soundless, silent, and terrifying. However, this bough consumed too much power. Otherwise, Lin Sun wouldn't have kept it hidden and wouldn't use it easily. But now it was different. Lin Sun had just swallowed a fruit of the Lantern King ginseng. The power in his body was surging and flowing, and he was always in the peak state. This made Lin Sun exclaim in satisfaction. Of course, this was just a thought. At this moment, he was in absolute calmness and had no emotional fluctuations at all. In next to no time, under Lin Sun's domineering pursuit, only 4 or 5 experts of the Dragon Whale clan remained, and all of them were filled with despair and helplessness while their hearts were enveloped by the great terror of death. How could they have imagined that a human youth who had almost been killed by them would launch a powerful counterattack in the blink of an eye? Thump! In the distance, another expert of the Dragon Whale race was shot to death. A bloody hole appeared on his throat, and his entire body was blasted flying. His pupils dilated as he perished. However, when Lin Sun was about to chase and kill all the remaining enemies, he suddenly narrowed his eyes and woke up from the absolute calmness. He sensed extreme danger, and the aura of danger was bone-piercing like a sharp blade. It caused him to be unable to maintain his calm, and the hairs on his entire body stood on end while his scalp went numb. This was too abnormal. Without the slightest hesitation, Lin Sun practically instinctively turned around and fled. His speed was extremely swift, and he'd even utilized his utmost strength. Even then, the dangerous aura that came from behind him still lingered incessantly, and it was as if a pair of icy cold eyes were staring at him from an invisible place. Flee! Lin Sun gritted his teeth, and his ice drake steps flickered as he dashed like a bolt of lightning. That guy actually left? In the distance, the remaining experts of the Dragon Whale race were stunned as they noticed that Lin Sun, this young devil who killed without batting an eyelid, had actually left at this moment for no reason or rhyme. Besides feeling relaxed from surviving a calamity, they couldn't help but feel bewildered. That guy actually left just like that? It seemed too unreal. Suddenly, they felt the scene before their eyes darken, and a shadow covered the entire sky. When they raised their heads to look, all of them were stunned, and their pupils dilated. It was a snake. However, this snake seemed to be too terrifying. Its head was like a mountain, its blood-red pupils were like lakes, and its wriggling body was like a lofty mountain range. What kind of snake is this? The experts of the Dragon Whale race were stiff all over, their hearts beating violently, and their souls almost leaving their bodies. Just the aura of this fierce beast made them feel weak all over and almost collapse. A gust of stinking wind suddenly swept over like a raging storm, sweeping away all the experts of the Dragon Whale race. It turned out that this storm was only caused by the snake's slight breathing, and it had already produced such a terrifying disaster. Those experts of the Dragon Whale race were all swallowed by the giant snake, and there was no possibility for them to survive. In a place far away, Lin Sun inadvertently looked back and saw the giant snake winding between heaven and earth. Its whole body was covered with green scales, and it was filled with cold divine light. Its head was like a mountain, and its blood-red pupils were like lakes. It raised its head high between heaven and earth, and it was impossible to see how big its body was. Hiss! Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp in shock. He realized that the dangerous aura just now was brought to him by this giant snake. He was even sure that if he had hesitated just now, he would have no chance to escape this time. Shriek! While Lin Sun was still in shock, a clear cry resounded through the entire world, shaking the desert and setting off a storm. The sand and dust were flying wildly, and the void was in disorder. That was Lin Sun was shocked. He saw a ferocious bird with a pair of bright golden wings like clouds hanging in the sky. It was huge and boundless, flowing with mysterious Taoist rhyme, blazing and dazzling as if it was cast in gold. It was a golden-winged roc. It was one of the legendary ferocious birds in ancient times. It soared into the sky, fed on dragons and snakes, and once killed a real god. As soon as it appeared, it swooped down, spread its golden wings, and grabbed at the giant snake with a pair of sharp claws glowing with terrible brilliance. Two ferocious beasts like ancient overlords actually started a fight in this world. Lin Sun was dumbfounded, and a burst of fear and horror came over him. He turned around and fled, not daring to stay at all. This scene also made Lin Sun thoroughly understand the horror and danger of the secret realm of demons. If he was not careful, he could die at any time. This was the so-called opportunity, and disaster coexisted. It was not as easy as one thought to seize the opportunity. No matter who it was, they had to bear the risk of dying. In fact, the secret realm of demons was indeed a dangerous place. No matter what kind of existence could occupy this place, it was very strange and powerful. For example, in terms of strength, the golden-winged roc and the giant snake were absolutely comparable to the life and death realm, or even more terrifying. If one encountered such terrifying, ferocious beasts, even the big shots of various clans would not dare to face them head-on and could only avoid them. And this time, all those who entered the secret realm of demons were Tao Insight realm powerhouses. It was conceivable that if they were unlucky enough to encounter such a danger, they would definitely die. Outside the ultimate ruins. What? That young human broke into the palace and is destroying the mysterious scripture that Glittering is about to get? The ancestor of the Bloodline clan flew into a rage and couldn't help cursing. The divine souls of some Bloodline clan powerhouses were brought back, but they didn't expect to hear such bad news. Other big shots nearby also couldn't sit still. In a palace, there was an ancient Taoist altar, a mysterious jade, and a golden scripture. This was a great fortune. One couldn't blame the ancestor of the Bloodline clan for being angry. Even they couldn't calm down after hearing all this. I have to congratulate your Dragon Whale clan this time. If nothing unexpected happens, this fortune will be seized by your clan in the end. Suddenly, a big shot sneered. Immediately, everyone's expression turned strange. They all knew that regardless of whether it was the young human who obtained the fortune or the saintess who obtained it, it would all be taken away by the group of Dragon Whale clan experts guarding outside the Five Elements Sacred Island. Thinking of this, the ancestor of the Bloodline clan's face turned gloomy. He wanted nothing more than to rush in and kill that young human. If not for this guy, how could so many accidents have happened? On the side of the Dragon Whale clan, Granny Heaven Fiend listened with a smile, not saying much. She clearly knew that this fortune was destined to belong to her Dragon Whale clan. However, to everyone's surprise, not long after, the soul altar on the side of the Dragon Whale clan suddenly fluctuated, and the figures of several Dragon Whale clan experts appeared. Ancestor, this is bad. The Five Elements Sacred Island has been destroyed. Even the fortune has disappeared. One of the Dragon Whale clan experts said angrily. Everyone was in an uproar. Another accident had happened. What happened? Granny Heaven Fiend stopped smiling and asked with a frown. It's that young human. He and Lin Lang joined forces and fought their way out of our heavy encirclement. The Dragon Whale clan expert was infuriated. Such a great fortune had slipped out of his hands just like that. It made his heart bleed. Young human. Killing intent flashed in Granny Heaven Fiend's eyes, and her face darkened. The big shots nearby looked even weirder. Why was it that young man again? Although the Bloodline clan seemed to have suffered heavy losses and only their saintess, Lin Lang, was left, it was highly possible that they had already obtained the great fortune. It was worth it. On the contrary, the Dragon Whale clan experts, who had been waiting for the opportunity, had come up empty-handed. They did not get what they wanted. They were really unlucky. Buzz, the sacrificial soul altar vibrated. Not long after, the souls of the Dragon Whale clan experts were sent back. They gritted their teeth and screamed in grief and anger. Only then did everyone know that the Dragon Whale clan experts had been killed by that young human. They had chased after him all the way, but could not do anything to him. The atmosphere in the surroundings became even more subtle. All the great figures were unable to imagine exactly what sort of youth he was. He was actually like a scourge, and no one could do anything to him. Conversely, he'd repeatedly spoil their plans. It was simply strange. Granny Heaven Fiend's face was as dark as water. She was no longer as proud as before. She looked as ugly as the Bloodline Patriarch. Do you think that young human took part of the fortune from the 5 Elements Sacred Island? Suddenly, a big shot asked in a low voice. It was just one sentence, but it made the faces of Granny Heaven Fiend and the Bloodline Patriarch turn even uglier. They even wanted to kill someone. The great fortune that they had originally thought was in their pocket had been greatly changed because of human youth. Moreover, many of their descendants had been killed. How could they not hate him? When the news spread, all the big shots around the ultimate ruins were shocked. They were in an uproar. Everyone became even more curious in their hearts. Just who was that human youth? Not only was his combat power heaven-defying, but his courage was also terrifying. He had almost killed all the descendants of the Dragon Whale clan and the Bloodline clan who had entered the secret realm. Chapter 571. Thousands of miles away, Lin Sun stopped and became vigilant. Along the way, he encountered several dangers and even almost met a 5-colored poisonous scorpion lurking in the depths of the desert. The poisonous scorpion was several meters long. Its body was like bronze, and its tail hook was overflowing with colorful brilliance. Its breath was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, it seemed to be sleeping, so Lin Sun avoided that area safely. Lin Sun stopped and looked into the distance. It was already the edge of the desert. Further ahead, there were mountains, rising and falling one after another, going straight into the sky, vast and boundless. Suddenly, Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and saw many figures coming from afar. "Little brother, did you come back from the depths of the desert? Have you ever seen what happened there?" A middle-aged man came forward and asked. Before the middle-aged man approached, Lin Sun did not hesitate to pull up the insignificant's bow and shoot an arrow. With a puff, the middle-aged man's chest was pierced, and blood poured out like a waterfall. His eyes widened, as if he was a little surprised and angry, but he finally laid down in a pool of blood. "Bastard, we kindly asked for directions. How dare you kill us?" Those practitioners who appeared with the middle-aged man were all shocked and angry. They rushed forward with murderous intent. "If you want to rob and kill me, just say it. Why hide it?" Lin Sun smiled, but his movements were not slow. The insignificant spout trembled slightly, and in an instant, a silent rain of arrows poured in all directions. "How dare you? Let's do it together." How could those practitioners sit still and wait for death? They did not hesitate to take action. However, they obviously underestimated the terrible power of the insignificant spout. In just a moment, Lin Sun killed 4 or 5 people. This finally made them feel something was wrong. They panicked and shouted at Lin Sun to threaten him. "Little bastard, who are you? How dare you fight against our flying spirit clan? Damn it, do you know what you're doing? When the holy son of our clan comes, you will definitely die." Whoosh! Lin Sun looked calm, as if he didn't hear it. But he didn't want to be entangled. He seized the gap, performed ice dragon steps, and instantly rushed to the deep mountains in the distance. The flying spirit race cultivators were furious, but they didn't dare to chase after them. Lin Sun couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He had sensed that something was wrong, just now?" When the middle-aged man asked, the other practitioners of the Flying Spirit clan approached him quietly. Obviously, they wanted to besiege him, which was definitely not a good thing. Most importantly, Lin Sun sensed that there were other strong people hiding in the vicinity of this area, all of whom were secretly watching this place. This made Lin Sun more vigilant. Naturally, he wouldn't show any mercy. Although the Demon Saint Mystic realm was dangerous, the experts of the various races who entered the Demon Saint Mystic realm were in even more danger. For the sake of seizing fortuitous encounters and fortunes, they would absolutely do anything. "I need to hurry up and improve my cultivation." A trace of worry rose in Lin Sun's heart. Some previous experiences made him deeply aware of the danger of the situation and a sense of urgency. Seeing Lin Sun leave, all of the experts watching from the shadows felt their hearts tremble. They didn't chase after him. They realized just how terrifying Lin Sun was, and they knew that this human youth was definitely a young genius. He dared to kill a group of Flying Spirit race experts on his own. Soon, Lin Sun's figure disappeared in the deep mountains. Why does this area attract so many strong people? Lin Sun was puzzled. Along the way, he was keenly aware that there were many strong auras rushing towards the desert. An hour later, Lin Sun hid in the dark and learned everything from the conversation of several strong people with low cultivation. It turned out that everything was related to the destruction of the sacred island of 5 elements. That movement was so earth-shattering that there was a terrible vision in the sky, which immediately attracted attention from all directions. They thought that there might be some great fortune there. After Lin Sun learned this, his expression suddenly became strange. There was indeed a fortune there, but it had already disappeared with the sinking of the sacred island of 5 elements. Even if he went there, he was doomed to get nothing. Oh, that desert is extremely dangerous. There are golden-winged rock, unparalleled snake, and the terrifying and unpredictable 5-colored poisonous scorpion. I hope you can come back alive. Lin Sun shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Have you heard that the masters of the Herculean Ox tribe, the holy land of spiritual treasure, and some other tyrannical races are eyeing the same place of fortune? When Lin Sun was about to leave, he was suddenly attracted by a practitioner's words. "I've heard that the place of fortune seems to be the Taoist altar of the legendary demonic saint. There is a supreme inheritance hidden there, but it hasn't been revealed yet. Not everyone can get involved in such a place. As far as I know, many masters have given up and don't want to get involved." The Taoist altar of the demonic saint? Lin Sun was surprised. He thought of a secret map given to Zhao Jingxian by Elder Gaoyang. Was the secret map related to the Taoist altar of the demonic saint? If so, it would be too amazing and would definitely drive any strong person crazy. If it was in other places, even the big shots would take action. Those strong people were still talking and guessing, but there was no valuable news. Lin Sun no longer hesitated and left quietly. "Go to cultivate and improve my combat effectiveness first." Lin Sun moved towards the depths of the mountain and began to look for a safe place suitable for closed-door cultivation. Along the way, he was pleasantly surprised to find that this mountain range actually nurtured many rare spirit herbs, and there were also some extremely special spirit items. Sunglow powder, 6-footed purple cicada, silver horned worm. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. These were all rare treasures, which were almost extinct in Xiao Empire, but they could be found here. At the same time, he also found many rare minerals, such as red blood, precious lightstone, floating sun red copper, and so on. Tai precious vine. When Lin Sun accidentally found a vine flowing with pure water light, his eyes were fixed on it, and he was ecstatic. The vine was as thick as a thumb and only 7 inches long. Its surface was flowing with water ripples. It grew in a crack of a rock, which was inconspicuous. But as long as you knew it, you would know it was a rare treasure. This vine contained Tai true water, which could not only be used as medicine and refined into peerless elixirs, but also extracted a trace of Tao belonging to Tai true water, which had an incredible magical effect on comprehending and controlling the essence of water. Lin Sun was worried about how to perfect and control the power of the essence of water he had comprehended. The Tai precious vine undoubtedly gave Lin Sun great confidence. After picking up the Tai precious vine, Lin Sun continued to move forward. A few days later, he found a quiet mountain, carved out a cave residence, set up a spirit formation to isolate the breath, and began closed-door cultivation. Lin Sun had been ready to do closed-door cultivation to break through the Tao insight realm a long time ago. Unfortunately, he had been disturbed by various things, which delayed him until now. Now, after seeing the horror of the secret realm of monsters and realizing the danger of his situation, Lin Sun finally made up his mind to break through the realm. In the belly of the mountain, Lin Sun's cave residence was isolated from the outside world. He sat cross-legged on the ground, not in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, he took out the wordless pagoda. "Old Toad, are you all right?" Lin Sun's consciousness entered the first floor of the pagoda. He saw Jean Di sitting there cross-legged, with disheveled hair and mottled with blood. Lin Sun was a little worried that Jean Di was seriously injured by the Dutian blood thunder bead when competing with Lin Lang for the golden scripture. Although this three-legged golden toad was a little insidious, despicable, arrogant, and boastful, he had helped Lin Sun a lot this time. Lin Sun felt a little sorry to see Jean Di so seriously injured. I'm all right." Jean Di opened his eyes. His face was pale, and his golden pupils had become dim. He looked very pitiful with serious injuries. This made Lin Sun even more embarrassed. He said, "Old Toad, I'm sorry this time. I'll let you go when you're better." Jean Di sighed and said in a weak voice, "If you really want to make it up to me, why don't you give me that Lantern King ginseng? Maybe only it can repair my seriously injured cultivation." As he spoke, he coughed violently. His pale face was flushed, and he looked like he was about to die. This, Lin Sun was stunned. It was reasonable to say that Old Toad had done him such a big favor, even if he gave the Lantern King ginseng to Old Toad. But when Old Toad took the initiative to ask for it, Lin Sun felt something was wrong. Seeing Lin Sun's hesitation, Jean Di seemed to be a little anxious. He coughed violently and said weakly, "Alas, if the Lantern King ginseng doesn't work, that Kylan grass can barely do it." I. As he spoke, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. His body trembled and became weaker. Seeing this, Lin Sun became more and more suspicious. "Old Toad, why don't I give you these two precious herbs? As long as they can cure your injury, they're just two spiritual herbs. What's the big deal?" "Really?" Jean Di's eyes lit up, and he immediately asked, "No, one Lantern King ginseng is enough." "Well, of course, if there's one more Kylan grass, I can definitely recover to my peak state." Speaking of this, he rolled his eyes and coughed. "Of course, I also know that this request is a little too much." "Then it's up to you." Crack! As soon as he finished speaking, a wisp of golden Tao light fell like a whip and lashed him hard. Jean Di suddenly let out a scream, jumped 3 feet high, and roared angrily. "F***CKU, what are you doing? Can't you see that I'm dying?" "Oh, you're dying, but you still have the strength to jump up and scold me?" Lin Sun sneered. Jean Di's expression froze. Immediately, he fell to the ground with a thud, twitching all over and bleeding from his mouth. He murmured miserably, "It's over. I'm going to die. It must be the last radiance of the setting sun, just now. Last radiance of the setting sun?" As Lin Sun spoke, a wisp of golden Tao light descended again and pressed in front of Jean Di. "Shall I try again?" Looking at the golden Tao light close at hand, Jean Di's face changed dramatically. His body stopped twitching, and he stopped coughing up blood. Chapter 572. In the end, Lin Sun withdrew the golden Tao light with a sneer. Old Toad stopped pretending. When he got up from the ground, his face was ruddy, his golden eyes were shining, and there was a unique, arrogant, and evil aura between his eyebrows. There was no sign of weakness at all. Lin Sun couldn't help marveling at the tenacious vitality of this toad. It was struck by lightning like that, but after a few days, it was full of vigor again, as if nothing had happened. I've helped you a lot this time, so I should have a share of the spoils. If you dare to eat them all by yourself, be careful that your son will have no anus. At first, Jean Dui was righteous and asked for benefits openly. This made Lin Sun speechless for a while. This toad had such a personality. Not only did it pretend to be dead to ask for benefits, but it also asked for it shamelessly when it couldn't pretend to be dead. Then, Lin Sun happily refused this unreasonable request, which made Jean Dui yell and curse constantly. But Lin Sun was unmoved by force or persuasion, which made Jean Dui helpless. Old Toad, how was the study of the incomplete Golden Scripture going? Lin Sun suddenly changed the topic. As expected, Jean Dui's attention was diverted. He opened his mouth and spat out a ball of golden light, which evolved into an incomplete Golden Scripture. Jean Dui said excitedly, "There is no doubt that this is definitely a scripture written by a saint himself." Lin Sun also cheered up and beamed with joy. This incomplete scripture came from the sacred island of 5 elements. It was originally complete, but it was torn into 3 parts in the process of competition. The other 2 parts were obtained by the mysterious creature in the jade stone and the saintess Lin Lang, respectively. Lin Sun had also studied this scripture, but found that it was very suitable. It was like jade and iron, and he didn't know what material it was made of. It was golden and heavy, filled with a unique sacred aura. What was regretful was that this damaged scripture couldn't be opened, to the extent where even the scripture characters on the pages disappeared, unable to be seen. In desperation, Lin Sun could only let Jean Dui identify it. This guy was a 3-legged golden toad, known to be able to identify all things and know all kinds of rare treasures. It's a pity that this scripture is incomplete and can't reflect the true scripture written by a saint. It's really a pity. As soon as Jean Dui said this, Lin Sun felt as if a basin of cold water was poured on him, and his inner excitement and joy disappeared. Can't be reflected? Lin Sun was a little unwilling. Jean Dui was obviously very unwilling and distressed. He said, "Do you think I don't want to see the mystery of this scripture with my own eyes? This was personally written by a saint, so it is definitely not a small matter. It involves the secrets of the divine Tao. However, the crux of the matter is that this Tao scripture was left behind by a saint. Unless I snatch the other 2 parts and complete it, I will never be able to pry into the secret technique within." Lin Sun understood that if he wanted to understand the mystery of the scripture of the saint, he had to get the other 2 parts. What troubled Lin Sun was that both Saintess Lin Lang and the mysterious creature in the jade stone were not ordinary people. It was easy to imagine how difficult it would be to snatch the scriptures from them. If Lin's guess was right, the mysterious creature in the jade stone must be the little child mentioned by the old ape. The entire 5 Elements sacred island was originally a cultivation ground that the old ape's master had specially prepared for this young master. This also meant that this young master must have an extraordinary origin. It was very likely that he was the descendant of a saint. This was too shocking. Fortunately, this young master had not been born yet, so Lin Sun didn't have to worry about any future trouble for the time being. Alas, all my efforts were in vain, Lin Sun sighed. To put it bluntly, even if you obtain the complete Tao scripture now, you won't be able to understand it all, because this is a Taoist scripture left behind by a saint. It involves the mysteries of the divine Tao. How can a guy like you who hasn't even reached the Tao insight realm covet it? Jean Dui's words were full of mockery. Lin Sun didn't bother to pay attention to him. He carefully hid the incomplete Tao scripture of the saint. He believed that in order to obtain the mysteries of the Tao scripture, both Lin Lang and the young master would definitely take the initiative to look for him. Otherwise, they could only stare at them helplessly, unable to pry into the secrets of the Tao scripture. This was also an opportunity for Lin Sun. Perhaps as long as he seized it, he could complete the Tao scripture of the saint. Of course, this was a matter for the future. No one knew when the young master would be born, and where would Lin Sun be when the young master was born. However, in this secret realm of monsters, he could first consider how to take the other part of the Tao scripture from Lin Lang. After entering the sacred island of 5 elements, Lin Sun had gained a lot by killing the strong practitioners of the Bloody Lion tribe and the Dragon Whale tribe. Not only did he get the treasure Lamp King Ginseng and the Kylan Grass, two treasures identified by Jean D as the king-level precious medicine, but also an incomplete Tao scripture of the saint. In addition, there were more than 30 kinds of rare spiritual herbs, such as wisteria snow ganoderma and moonlight grass, which were rarely seen in the outside world. Most of them were the spoils of war from the strong practitioners of the Bloody Lion tribe and the Dragon Whale tribe, and a small part was collected by Lin Sun himself. In addition, there were some weapons, elixirs, ores, and other sundries. But for the current Lin Sun, most of them were of little value. Of course, if he sold them in the Xiao Empire, they could be sold at a sky-high price. However, there were some rare ores and spiritual materials, which could be used as materials to refine armors with spiritual tattoos, which were of high value, so Lin Sun collected them. Lin Sun began to cultivate in seclusion. Sitting cross-legged in the cave residence, he silently recited the ancestral Taoist scripture of illusions in his sea of consciousness, which produced waves like the chanting of Sanskrit, which had an extremely mysterious and beneficial effect on enlightenment and cultivation. At the same time, a drop of water floated between his eyebrows and was perceived by Lin Sun calmly. The water drop was transparent, overflowing with dreamy luster and wisps of sunglow, with a kind of mysterious and boundless power. This was true supreme water, and it was extracted from the supreme treasure vine. Even though it was only a single drop, it could be said to be a priceless treasure. A trace of a Tao mark was branded within it, and it possessed an unbelievable miraculous effect towards comprehending the concept of water. Before breaking through the realm, the only thing Lin Sun needed to solve was to perfectly control the essence of water that he had comprehended. Now, Lin Sun already understood that the reason why he could comprehend the power of the essence of water in the sea spirit realm was not because of his strong perception, which was far superior to those in the ancient and modern times. It was because he had used the Amrita Saint Pearl to refine his body. His body was integrated with the essence of the Amrita Saint Pearl, which made his body naturally close to the Tao of water. Later, with the help of the Sky Ladder, he miraculously comprehended a trace of the Tao of water. Otherwise, no matter how high his perception was, it was impossible for him to achieve this step in the sea spirit realm. After all, in terms of the level of perception, there were definitely some amazing people in the past years who were more powerful than Lin Sun. But none of them could achieve this step. Only Lin Sun did it, which was enough to prove that the miracle of Lin Sun's enlightenment was not only related to his perception. As time went by, Lin Sun looked solemn and motionless like a clay statue, with a transcendent sense of tranquility. He had fallen into a deep level of meditation. His heart was full of the essence of water, deducing endless wonderful scenes. While Lin Sun was in closed-door meditation, there were conflicts in the secret realm of demons all the time. Blood flowed constantly and disputes arose everywhere. Everything was born for the sake of fighting for opportunities. Almost all the people who entered the secret realm of demons this time were the leaders of the major clans in the Soul Oblivion Sea. In order to fight for opportunities, fighting and bloodshed were inevitable. Although there were many opportunities in the secret realm of demons, the number was limited after all, and some amazing opportunities were even fewer. In this way, there was a situation of there are too many wolves but not enough meat, which made the conflicts and competitions between clans more and more fierce. Many of the weaker clans were completely wiped out in less than 3 days. They were completely eliminated. Not only did they not get any opportunities, but they also suffered heavy casualties. This was the price to pay for fighting for opportunities, which made people sigh. However, almost all the clans who survived the competition were extremely powerful, such as the Herculean Ox clan, the Golden Phoenix clan, the Cloud Monkey clan, the Black Turtle clan, and so on. What? My Flying Spirit clan was wiped out? Who? Which force did it? Outside the ultimate, there was an angry roar. It was the ancestor of the Flying Spirit clan. At this moment, he was so angry that he looked up to the sky and roared. His face was full of unwillingness and anger. Other big shots had different expressions. Some sighed with emotion and sympathized with him, while some gloated and sneered. These days, there were too many similar things happening. Not only the Flying Spirit clan, but almost all the experts from other clans who entered the secret realm of demons were killed. Almost all the core disciples who could escape were wearing the Bone Soul Talisman. Otherwise, the consequences would be even more miserable. There were also some cultivators who brought back some shocking news after they were eliminated, almost all of which were related to fighting for opportunities. For example, the experts of the Herculean Ox clan, under the leadership of the chosen, Neo Tunshin, fought all the way. In the bloody competition, they obtained a jade scepter with remnant, divine, Tao aura from a valley filled with purple mist. In this battle alone, more than 100 experts from various clans had died at Neo Tunshin's hands. It was also because of this that Neo Tunshin became famous, and people's expressions changed when they talked about him. For example, the saintess of the Golden Phoenix race, Meng Lianxing, had single-handedly fought against the holy sun-level characters of 3 different races. In the end, she defeated the 3 holy suns in one fell swoop and obtained victory. From an underground cave ruin, she obtained an ancient medicine cauldron of shocking origin. Be it Neo Tunshin or Meng Lianxing, they had long become the focus of attention. Their fame was so great that even the big shots outside the ultimate did not dare to ignore their existence. And like them, the Cloud Monkey clan's chosen, Kong Xiao, the Xian Ao clan's chosen, Xian Luozi, the numinous treasure Sacred Land successor, Su Xingfeng, etc. In the past few days, they had been fighting and killing in the demon Saint Mystic realm. They had made a name for themselves and were like the sun in the sky. Of course, there were also some low-profile people who were even more feared. At least Elder Gao Yang knew that among the disciples of the numinous treasure Sacred Land, in terms of combat strength, just Xiao Ran alone was not inferior to Su Xingfeng. The only thing that puzzled the important figures outside the sinkhole was that no one had mentioned the human youth who had shone brilliantly on the first day they entered the demon Saint Mystic realm. There was not even a hint of news about him. Chapter 573. 7 days later, Lin Sun woke up from meditation. The moment he opened his eyes, a drop of great one water floating between his eyebrows trembled slightly and turned into a colorful light, merging into Lin Sun's sea of consciousness. Buzz! At the same time, Lin Sun stretched out his right hand and gently pointed his white and slender fingers in the void. A wisp of water light emerged, steaming and overflowing with Tao aura. With Lin Sun's thought, this wisp of water light began to change. Sometimes it turned into a round and plump water drop and fell in the void. Sometimes it turned into a drizzle, rustling and falling. Sometimes it turned into a waterfall, flying and flowing rapidly. Later, it turned into rivers, lakes, clouds, and other scenes, all of which were filled with Tao aura, vivid and full of indescribable mystery. Clatter, finally, a drop of water was suddenly stretched and turned into a sword. The water light was steaming, magnificent, and dreamy. Lin Sun stared at it quietly with a tranquil and refined look. After a long time, the water sword changed again and gradually outlined the shape of Skylark. But when it was about to take shape, it suddenly burst and turned into mist. Seeing this, Lin Sun couldn't help saying to himself, "Sure enough, it's difficult to condense real spirituality at the stage of Tao aura and can evolve into real spiritual things." There were thousands of Tao between heaven and earth. Every Tao was branded with the essence of heaven and earth, and its meaning was infinite. Practitioners could find a way to live a long life by comprehending this Tao. Tao Insight Realm allowed practitioners to see through the mysteries of heaven and earth. The word heaven, here was a name for the Tao. This also meant that only by reaching Tao Insight Realm could one really spy on and comprehend the mysteries of Tao. This realm was also called the starting point of the real cultivation. But obviously, Lin Sun was a special case. He had not yet set foot in Tao Insight Realm. but he had already comprehended and mastered the mysteries of water Tao. It had to be said that this was absolutely a miracle. At least throughout the past years, it was almost difficult to find such an example. In the past, Lin Sun had learned that the Tao between heaven and earth was endless and different, such as 5 elements, yin and yang, wind and thunder, light and darkness, and so on. But no matter what kind of Tao it was, they all had their own wonders, so there was no difference between them. Only in the hands of cultivators would they display different powers according to the depth of their control over the power of the great Tao. The knowledge of the grand Tao in the world had an extremely perfect and strict standard. It was divided into the 3 stages of Tao aura, Tao insight, and Tao seed. The aura of the Tao was the initial stage for a cultivator to grasp the energy of a grand Tao. Once one attained this realm, one would already be able to grasp and utilize the rhythm and aura of the grand Tao. Tao insight, on the other hand, was a stage of attaining a higher level. It was higher than the Tao rhythm, and it allowed cultivators to start comprehending the true meaning contained within the great Tao. The Tao seed was a state of attaining great heights, a state of extreme sublimation. When one arrived at this realm, cultivators had already started to explore and grasp the true essence of the grand Tao. The almighty figures of the ancient times had unanimously affirmed that the chaos was like a seed that gave birth to the power of creation, and the great Tao was like a seed that gave birth to the profundities of the great Tao. The so-called Tao seed realm meant that the substitute cultivator had already begun to trace the source of the profound meaning of the Tao. Condensing the Tao seed was tantamount to mastering a complete grand Tao and planting the seed of the grand Tao that belonged to one's self, which nurtured one's own understanding and perception of the essence of the grand Tao. When the seed took root and sprouted, it could undergo metamorphosis and sublimation again. At present, Lin Sun's control of the Tao of water was at the initial stage of Tao aura, and he was already able to display the rhythm and aura of the Tao of water. If he used it in the battle, it was enough to make the power change dramatically. Boom! Lin Sun got up and casually punched without using spiritual power. But on the surface of his fist, there was a wave of Tao aura belonging to the Tao of water. Suddenly, the void was like a piece of paper exploding and shattering. The strong wind from the punch hit the rock wall in the distance, leaving behind an unfathomably deep fist mark. This is the power of Tao aura. It's really wonderful. Lin Sun marveled in his heart. After 7 days of meditation, he was finally able to control the Tao aura of water. Now, a casual punch had obviously undergone a qualitative transformation, which was completely different from the past. If I run the power with all my strength and integrate the Tao aura of water into it, how powerful will it be? Lin Sun didn't try it in the end. This cave was dug in the hinterland of the mountain, and it couldn't withstand this kind of damage at all. Suddenly, Lin Sun had a foreboding in his heart. It was like a sudden impulse. In an instant, he perceived a wisp of heaven's secret. The tribulation of advancing to Tao insight realm is coming. Lin Sun's black eyes suddenly burst out a touch of light, and his whole body was boiling. In the past, he had been suppressing himself. Now, when he began to master the power of the Tao aura of water, all his cultivation reached the level of perfection. His cultivation, physique, soul, and Tao aura had all been perfected. This was an extremely unprecedented way of perfection, which was completely different from other practitioners in the world. If it was spread out, it would cause a great shock in the world, because it was really too rare. If it were other practitioners, they would consider breaking through to Tao insight realm when their cultivation was perfected. But who could be like Lin Sun, who reached the level of perfection in physique and soul, and even mastered the power of Tao aura in sea spirit realm? This was destined to be a way different from the world. Whoosh! Lin Sun's figure flashed and left the cave. The next moment, he was already standing on the top of the mountain. At this time, it was dusk and the sky was dim. The mountains in the distance were vast and winding like dragons, and from time to time, there was a burst of horrible beast roar. The mountain wind blew, and Lin Sun's figure was straight. His black hair was flowing with luster, fluttering in the wind, and his moon-white clothes were fluttering. With his hands behind his back, he looked up at the sky, and his deep black eyes were like a surging abyss. Since an unknown period of time, this expanse of the sky had suddenly darkened, while surging black clouds that were like pieces of lead surged over and converged here before ceaselessly accumulating, causing all to be silent and oppressive to the point of being unable to breathe. There was a burst of beast roar in the distance, which seemed to be extremely uneasy and restless. In the nearby forest, the creatures lurking seemed to be aware of something and rushed out like a tide to hide in the distance. More and more black clouds gathered, like thick ink, making the atmosphere more and more oppressive. The silence was terrible, as if a great tribulation was coming. The strange and terrible celestial phenomenon made Lin Sun's eyes narrow, and an indescribable palpitation appeared in his heart. This was his heaven's retribution. However, Lin Sun was keenly aware that this tribulation seemed to be more terrible than expected. Before it really came, it was already so oppressive that it made people's hair stand on end. It could be imagined how terrible it would be when this tribulation really broke out. Lin Sun had seen Gu Yunting's retribution on the sky ladder. At that time, the thunder of retribution was rolling and stirring up the wind and clouds. It could be said to be very powerful. But compared with the scene in front of him, it seemed to be ordinary. It is said that the power of thunder retribution is related to the practitioner's own cultivation. The stronger the practitioner is, the more terrible the tribulation he will face and the greater the danger he will bear. It seems to be true. Lin Sun murmured in his heart, but he was not afraid. He had been waiting for a long time for the arrival of thunder retribution today. In a place far away from the mountains, two figures moved like lightning, shuttling through the mountains at an extremely fast speed. Remember our agreement. I can give you the remnant of Saint Scripture, but you must let me have a look at it. In addition, I will also have a share of his peerless medicine. Saintess Lin Lang looked cold, and her blood-red hair fluttered. Of course. A handsome and oppressive young man smiled as he spoke from the side. He walked with a majestic gait, and his bearing was extraordinary. Shockingly, it was the holy son of the Dragon Whale clan, Yu Shaosheng. Are you sure he's hiding in this mountain range? Saintess Lin Lang frowned. He killed so many clansmen of my Dragon Whale clan. If I can't remember the aura left on his body, then I would seem to be too useless. Yu Shaoxing's tone was casual, but his eyes flickered with terrifying killing intent. Saintess Lin Lang didn't say anything further. In reality, her heart bled when she thought of her clansmen that had died at Lin Sun's hands, and her hatred was difficult to calm. The reason she'd temporarily exercised forbearance and agreed to work together with her enemy, Yu Shaosheng, was mostly because she wanted to find Lin Sun and kill him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This saying was absolutely true. Be it Yu Shaosheng or Lin Lang, they both saw Lin Sun as a thorn in their sides. When Yu Shaosheng suggested working together, Lin Lang agreed without hesitation. Of course, the condition was that Yu Shaosheng would return the sapling of the golden treasure tree, and Saintess Lin Lang would agree to give the incomplete scripture in Lin Sun's possession to him. As for the other treasures on Lin Sun, they would split them evenly. This was the agreement between the two. As for whether or not they would fulfill it after killing Lin Sun, no one knew. After all, they weren't friends but enemies. They were both wary of each other. Is that human youth really nearby? Suddenly, the sound of a conversation came from afar, alerting Yu Shaosheng and Lin Lang. The two looked at each other and went into hiding without a sound. There's no doubt about it. This is the information sent by the elites of the Wind Falcon clan. They said that the human youth snuck into this mountain range and hid after leaving Sacred Island of 5 Elements. There was a group of cultivators in the distance, and there were dozens of them. They were obviously not from the same clan, but they were gathered together and discussing in low voices. Hee, this human youth is truly powerful. He's practically killed all the elites of the Bloodline clan and Dragon Whale clan. How bold of him. Ha! The Bloodline clan and the Dragon Whale clan have lost a lot of face this time. Not only did they fail to seize any fortuitous opportunities, they were even beaten to a pulp by a human youth. Ha ha, what a joke. The conversation between the elites was filled with schadenfreude. Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang, who were hiding in the dark, had their faces darkened immediately. They gritted their teeth in anger, but at the same time, they were also shocked and bewildered. How did the incident that happened in Sacred Island of 5 Elements get out? How did it attract so many elites to search for that human youth? Something wasn't right. Chapter 574. What do you think? Who on earth is that boy? How could he fight against the superiors of the 2 clans alone? Instead of being killed, he seized the great fortune in the holy island of 5 Elements. Those practitioners were still talking, speculating about Lin Sun's identity. Why do you care about this? What I really doubt is what kind of fortune did that boy get from the holy island of 5 Elements. It's said that it's an ancient scripture left by a sage. Some people also say that the holy island of 5 Elements nurtured peerless medicines, but they were all taken away by that young man. Hearing these discussions, Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang's faces became gloomier and gloomier. Who leaked the news? The reason why they joined hands was that they hoped to take away all the treasures of Lin Sun without being noticed. But they didn't expect that the news about Lin Sun had already spread everywhere. Wind Falcon Clan. After eavesdropping for a long time, Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang finally confirmed that the news was leaked by the superiors of the Wind Falcon Clan. Speaking of which, the Wind Falcon Clan might not be the strongest among all the indigenous forces in the Soul Oblivion Sea. But in terms of being well-informed, the Wind Falcon Clan was the best. The Wind Falcon Clan was born to be spies. They mastered unique secret methods to come and go without a trace, so they were the most well-informed. When they learned that it was the Wind Falcon Clan who leaked the news, Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang were not surprised. The only thing that troubled them was that according to those practitioners, there were many people who wanted to kill Lin Sun. Many superiors of different clans were coming from all directions to seize the fortune of Lin Sun. In this way, there were undoubtedly many variables and troubles, which made Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang feel tricky at once. We have to act as soon as possible and kill that boy before others. Lin Lang clenched her silver teeth. Let's go. Yu Shaoxing took a deep breath and realized that the situation was serious, so he immediately took action. Along the way, they searched carefully for Lin Sun's trace as fast as lightning. To their surprise, they found more than one group of practitioners just on the road, who were all looking for Lin Sun with the same purpose as them. This made them more and more anxious in their hearts. Others didn't know, but they knew very well how amazing the fortune of Lin Sun was. Not long after, the roars of a group of beasts resounded from the distant mountain forest. The roars were filled with restlessness and uneasiness, and the ground was shaking as if countless living beings were fleeing. Heavens, what is that? Could it be that some heaven-defying monster was about to undergo a tribulation? The aura of that tribulation cloud is too terrifying. In a nearby forest, cries of surprise could be heard from time to time. Obviously, many experts had come to this area and discovered the abnormality. Their gazes were all looking in the same direction. A lone mountain stood towering there. In the sky above the mountain, thick black clouds covered the sky and covered the sun, and they ceaselessly converged and roiled. They were silent, and strange, and they emitted a terrifying, oppressive aura that seemed as if it intended to destroy the world, and it caused the hearts of others to tremble. It was too terrifying. That aura made all beasts feel fear. They ran frantically, becoming restless and restless. Even the cultivators who arrived at this place were all dumbstruck. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. Who was going to face the tribulation? Why was the aura so oppressive and terrifying? It's the chaotic whole heavenly tribulation that belongs to the abode realm. But this phenomenon is too terrifying. Even the innate saints of the ancient times seem to be unable to draw down such a tribulation. At the same time, Yu Shaoxing noticed all of this as well. When he saw the black tribulation cloud that converged in the sky, his heart couldn't help but shake fiercely, while his expression changed slightly. Are there any records of this in the ancient books? At the side, Saintess Lin Lang's clear eyes were suffused with a strange expression, and her expression was heavy. No, you. Xiaosheng shook his head. Saintess Lin Lang was visibly moved. The Dragon Whale clan that Yu Xiaosheng was from kept many ancient books passed down from the ancient times, and there were many records of the Grand Tao tribulations amongst them. Yet now, even Yu Xiaosheng had said frankly that he'd never heard of such a tribulation lightning, and this seemed to be too unusual. Look, there's a figure standing at the peak of that mountain. A cold light suddenly shot out from Yu Xiaosheng's eyes as he looked towards the distant mountain. It's that human kid. Could it be that he's going to overcome the tribulation? It's surely him. I fought him once, and I confirmed that he's only at the perfection stage of the spiritual ocean realm. Saintess Lin Lang gritted her teeth while her eyes were filled with hatred. The perfection stage of the spiritual ocean realm? Yu Xiaosheng was shocked. Only then did he realize that the problem was a bit serious. He knew clearly how powerful Saintess Lin Lang was. She could kill sea spirit realm practitioners as easily as slaughtering chickens and monkeys. But that kid could fight with Saintess Lin Lang and even take away an incomplete Taoist scripture from her. This was too unusual. You've also realized that he's an evildoer. If he's allowed to grow up, he'll definitely be our great enemy in the future. Saintess Lin Lang took a deep breath and looked solemn. Just like now, can you imagine how terrible his strength will be once he overcomes this tribulation? We must take this opportunity to get rid of this kid. Yu Xiaosheng said word by word, and his eyes were full of killing intent. If he wanted to take away Lin Sun's opportunity before, then now he wanted to kill a great enemy on the road of cultivation in the future. Because he knew very well that once a person like Lin Sun rose up, he would definitely shine brightly and suppress all of them. Boom! Suddenly, there was a thunderous sound in the distant sky. It was just like the roar of the thunder god, shaking the world and the earth. It was deafening and terrifying. In this mountain area, thousands of beasts were wailing, crawling on the ground and shivering. This was a kind of supreme power that frightened them. Even the practitioners distributed in this area felt trembling at this moment. They were shrouded by an indescribable oppressive aura, and their whole body was stiff. In the sky, the dark clouds were suddenly torn apart by a dazzling purple bolt of lightning, illuminating the heaven and earth with immeasurable power. Looking from a distance, it was just like a terrifying purple dragon that swept out from the depths of the black clouds to destroy the world. Just this aura alone was enough to shock many cultivators, their faces turning pale. This tribulation, it could be said to be shocking and terrifying. It's that young human. It turns out that he triggered the tribulation. God, he hasn't advanced to Tao Insight Realm yet, but he has killed so many strong practitioners of Tao Insight Realm from Bloodline Clan and Dragon Whale Clan. He's just abnormal. It's really abnormal. Look at the power of this tribulation. I've never seen it before. In the nearby area, there was a burst of exclamations. No matter which clan they were from, they were shocked at this moment and recognized Lin Sun's identity. There were also many strong practitioners with killing intent lingering in their eyes. Tribulation was not a joke. If there was no one to protect them, they would easily suffer accidents. Even if they could succeed in the end, their body would become extremely weak. If they took advantage of this opportunity to kill him, they could definitely kill him. There's a great opportunity hidden in this boy. It's enough to take advantage of this opportunity to kill him easily. Many practitioners who came from all directions witnessed this scene, and they all had the same idea. That was to take advantage of the situation. On the top of the mountain, when the purple thunderbolt appeared, Lin Sun, with his hands on his back, finally moved. Whoosh! He didn't retreat or avoid it. His figure was as illusory as an ice dragon, and his whole body was full of clear brilliance. He rose into the air and rushed into the rolling tribulation clouds. Is this boy going to take the tribulation head-on? Isn't he courting death? Many practitioners exclaimed. The tribulation was so terrifying and rare that it made people tremble with fear from a long distance. But Lin Sun took the initiative to face it, which surprised them all. Boom! The first heavenly thunder fell. The purple light flowed, and the electric arcs intertwined, illuminating the mountains and rivers. Lin Sun's body was bathed in it. His whole body was sparkling and translucent. He resisted the tribulation without suffering any injury, which made many people stunned. How strong must his physique be to not be afraid of being struck by tribulation lightning? It could be vaguely seen that the blood and chi around Lin Sun rushed out of his body like a dragon one after another, surging like stormy waves. That was the pure physical power, a release of the potential of his body. If it was exerted, this kind of physical body could sweep away the strong in the same realm. Boom! Not long after, the second tribulation came. It turned into a thunderstorm, like a rain of light, but it was the purest thunderbolt. The thunderstorm poured down and drowned Lin Sun. There was a vast expanse of purple between heaven and earth, like a sea of thunder, which was extremely horrible. What is this tribulation? Why is it so horrible? Someone swallowed his saliva with difficulty, and his scalp was numb. Is he dead? Many people widened their eyes. Suddenly, there was a thump. Thump! Thump! It was the sound of heartbeat, but at this moment, it was like a divine drum vibrating, which made people's ears buzz. Then, everyone saw Lin Sun's figure emerge from the sea of thunderstorm. The rolling thunder washed his body, making his whole body crystal clear and bright, and even his pores were shining. It could be clearly seen that his body was transforming rapidly. His skin was more and more flawless, as clear as glass, and there was a strong fluctuation of upgrading. His body is transforming. Is he walking on the road of becoming a saint with his body? A group of strong practitioners was shocked to find that after the second tribulation, Lin Sun's body seemed to be baptized and sublimated, and began to be reborn and transformed extremely. We must kill him. We can't let him succeed in crossing the tribulation alive. Witnessing all this, Yu Shaosheng and Saintess Linlong's killing intent became stronger and stronger. The tribulation was so horrible that it had never been seen before, but Lin Sun was not hurt at all. Instead, he used the tribulation to promote the transformation of his body. He was simply a monster. Once this kind of person grew up, who could suppress him in the same generation? Boom! The thunderstorm in the sky seemed to be drawn by the tribulation, constantly refining and washing Lin Sun's body, making him flow like a divine rainbow, illuminating the mountains and rivers. In the end, the second tribulation fell silent. At this moment, Lin Sun didn't hesitate at all. He stepped on the void and went up step by step, rushing to the dark tribulation cloud again. His whole body was shining like clear glass. His black hair was shining, fluttering in the wind. His expression was firm and calm and tranquil. Boom! Before Lin Sun approached, the third tribulation came in the depths of the tribulation cloud. The sky fell and the earth cracked. A purple and golden thunderbolt burst out, vast and deafening. Chapter 575. Puff! Lin Sun coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was heavily injured, and his body was sent flying. The powerhouses in the distance gasped. The third wave was too terrifying. They couldn't imagine how Lin Sun could endure it. After all, if it were them, they would have been killed instantly. I remember when I went through the tribulation, it was almost the same. Yu Shaosheng murmured. A sense of injustice arose in his heart, and he was actually a little jealous, because he knew very well that Lin Sun's tribulation had just begun, and it was already so terrifying. It was conceivable how terrifying Lin Sun's foundation was, and it was definitely far beyond him. Being able to attract tribulation lightning is already a top figure in the Tao Insight realm, and the tribulation lightning this guy attracted is rare and boundlessly terrifying. I really can't imagine how he cultivated. Saintess Linlang was also a little lost. He must die. Yu Shaosheng gritted his teeth. Boom! In the sky, the purple gold lightning was boundless, and it was filled with a destructive aura. It struck Lin Sun ceaselessly, causing him to cough up blood and stagger. His body was covered in wounds, and he was in an extremely miserable state. Kill. But what terrified everyone was that every time Lin Sun was sent flying, he would immediately stand up and take the initiative to face the attack, and he seemed extremely brave and arrogant. His black hair fluttered, and he roared furiously. The potential in his body was stimulated at this moment, and he fought against the tribulation lightning. His cultivation was transforming and rising, and he was about to step into the Tao insight realm. A powerful aura permeated the air, and his blood and chi surged, nourishing and repairing his body. Buzz. His whole body glowed, and his whole body crackled. Every time he was sent flying, his broken bones would be reconnected, and his body would be repaired, and the cycle would start again. In the end, the third wave of tribulation lightning was silent, and it disappeared without a trace. The powerhouses who witnessed all this from afar were dumbfounded. He actually passed it just like that? He did pass it, but it wasn't over yet. Lin Sun was acutely aware that his cultivation still hadn't truly stepped into the Tao insight realm, and this made him slightly speechless. It couldn't be helped. His foundation in the sea spirit realm was too strong and complete, so it was extremely difficult for his cultivation to transform and sublimate. Rumble. In the sky, tribulation clouds surged, and it became even more terrifying. One could vaguely see that the color of the tribulation lightning was changing. It became golden, and it transformed into the shapes of swords, and halberds. Thunder calamity artifact. Heavens, the legend is actually true. Many experts exclaimed in shock, and their scalps went numb. No one had expected that the fourth wave of tribulation lightning would actually transform into weapons. Exactly how heaven-defying is this kid to be able to incur such a terrifying strike from the heavens to the point of wiping him off the face of the earth? The fourth level, Thunder Retribution Artifact. Yu Shaoxing and Lin Long's faces darkened as they felt suffocated in their hearts. They knew exactly what this meant. Judging from the power of the thunder punishment alone, Lin Sun's foundation was heaven-defying and terrifying. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds. They wished the thunder could kill Lin Sun directly. In the sky, the thunder retribution broke out and turned into thunder sabers, thunder swords, thunder spears, thunder axes, and so on. The scene was like a group of peerless masters wielding the thunder punishment to kill Lin Sun. Kill. At the same time, Lin Sun also exerted his full strength to fight against it. The mystery of the 9 strikes for shaking heaven was completely deduced by him. The scene was very terrifying. It could be clearly seen that Lin Sun was repeatedly defeated. His body was broken and bleeding, and he seemed to be on the verge of collapse. But no one had expected that even so, Lin Sun still persisted tenaciously, and no one dared to believe their own eyes. Boom! The sound of thunder almost pierced through people's eardrums, shattered their souls, shook the world, and even the void was in disorder because the thunder was too terrifying. It was blazing and resplendent, and it filled every inch of space. Lin Sun struggled within, and it seemed that he would be obliterated at any time, which shocked everyone. Even looking at it from a distance, it was so terrifying. It was difficult to imagine what kind of pain and suffering Lin Sun, who was covered by the thunder retribution, was experiencing. Lin Sun's skin and flesh were torn, and his body was scorched black. Blood flowed like a waterfall. However, although he was seriously injured, his momentum was getting stronger and stronger. His chi and blood soared into the sky, and he didn't show a trace of dispiritedness. Instead, he was high-spirited and disdainful as before, and he fought bravely. Many experts were horrified. This human teenager's physique and strength were too terrifying, and it could even be compared with the body of the Herculean ox demon. If it was any other practitioner, they would probably be turned into ashes by the thunder retribution, but he was still fighting until now. In this mountain range, more and more experts were alarmed, and they gathered here. After witnessing this shocking thunder retribution, all of their expressions changed. When did such a freak appear in the human clan? In the eyes of the experts of the Soul Oblivion Sea, the human clan had always been weak and unbearable. They didn't expect that such a freak would appear today, and he was even stronger than the descendants of some clans that were said to be peerless. Open. Lin Sun let out a long roar, and his whole body was steaming with terrifying radiance. It actually blasted away the thunder retribution that covered the sky, and it collapsed. However, he was covered in blood, and his face was pale. It was obvious that he couldn't hold on any longer. Even so, it still shocked all the experts present. The fourth level of the thunder retribution instrument was actually passed. Since ancient times, how many geniuses have died under such a great tribulation? How many people would be able to break through this barrier and charge forward? When advancing to the Tao Insight realm, very few people would attract the thunder retribution. Usually, only those with extraordinary talent could attract the thunder retribution to temper themselves. But it was obvious that Lin Sun was special. Not only did he attract the thunder retribution, but he also attracted a shocking great tribulation that was rarely seen since ancient times. This was too rare and terrifying. People couldn't help but be stunned, and they couldn't figure out the mystery behind it. My God, there's still the fifth level of the thunder retribution instrument? Someone exclaimed. He saw that there was still a thunder retribution instrument in the depths of the clouds. Obviously, it wasn't over yet. All of a sudden, all the experts were stunned. They couldn't imagine that such a terrible tribulation would befall when advancing to the Tao Insight realm. Even the Holy Sun Yu Shaosheng and the Saintess Lin Lang couldn't see through it at this moment. But there was no doubt that since the thunder retribution instrument hadn't ended, it further proved how terrifying this young human was. The more powerful one was, the more ruthless the thunder retribution instrument would be. This was the common understanding of all cultivators since ancient times. What was strange was that the thunder retribution instrument this time was silent. The thunder retribution instrument that poured out was no longer blazing and brilliant. Instead, it showed a kind of gray color, as if it was illusory, ethereal, and frightening. What kind of tribulation was this? Everyone was confused. Even more shocking was that Lin Sun was actually sitting cross-legged in the sky at this moment, and he'd close his eyes. Soul retribution lightning. Yu Shaoxing spoke word by word, and his expression was filled with surprise and bewilderment. He recognized that this was a type of tribulation that specifically targeted the soul, and it acted directly on the soul. It was shapeless and immaterial, and it was extremely mysterious and terrifying. Once it failed, then it would surely be obliterated without any possibility of survival. So it's this tribulation. A strange expression flashed in the eyes of the Saintess Lin Lang. She seemed to be slightly moved, and she intended to seize this opportunity to kill Lin Sun. But before she could make a move, an expert had already attacked first. It was a green-colored wind falcon that unfolded its wings and swept up an expanse of dazzling divine rays of light from afar as it attacked Lin Sun. The other experts present here were stunned, and then they came to an understanding. This wind falcon intended to seize this opportunity to kill Lin Sun and seize the fortune he possessed. Instantly, many experts became eager to make a move, and they accumulated strength and waited. But a strange scene occurred. The divine ray of light emitted by the wind falcon hadn't even touched Lin Sun when it was tainted by a wisp of gray and hazy mist, and then it vanished without a trace. At practically the exact same moment, the wind falcon emitted a shrill and miserable cry, and then its body suddenly exploded with a bang. Both its body and spirit were obliterated. This scene instantly shocked everyone present here, and it caused the hearts of those experts that were originally eager to make a move to go cold, and they didn't dare make a move arbitrarily. Isn't this courting death? Who dares interfere under the tribulation lightning? This is an area enveloped by the might of the heavens. Not to mention the soul retribution lightning is extremely mysterious and terrifying, and it acts directly on the soul. Anyone who makes a move at this moment is bound to be obliterated in both body and spirit. Yu Shaoxing sneered. Even though he wished for nothing more than for Lin Sun to be killed, he knew that this wasn't the best time to kill Lin Sun. The Saintess Lin Lang was covered in cold sweat as well, and she felt a wave of lingering fear in her heart. She wanted to make a move earlier as well, but fortunately, she didn't. In the sky, Lin Sun sat cross-legged. His whole body was dyed red with blood, but he seemed to be unaware of it. His face was solemn, and his expression was as calm as an ancient well. He released the power of his soul without any reservation to confront the strange gray and misty thunderbolts. This was a tribulation that specifically targeted at the soul. It would evolve into horrifying attacks, illusions, and the appearance of the sky devil. It was the most vicious and mysterious tribulation. But Lin Sun was as still as a bell at this moment. He ran the meditating magic and deduced the moon from the star circulation. His sea of consciousness became ethereal, and the stars shone upon him. A divine moon began to evolve from an incomplete one, and gradually became complete, flowing with silver moonlight, illuminating his sea of consciousness and soul. His soul was bombarded by the tribulation lightning, and there were layers upon layers of illusions. If it were any other practitioner, he would have already been possessed by the devil, and his soul would have been obliterated. But Lin Sun didn't seem to feel it at this moment. He used the tribulation lightning as a whetstone to temper his soul and comprehend a brand new realm of the meditating magic, the moon. At this moment, besides the transformation of his physique and cultivation, Lin Sun's soul also started to undergo a brand new sublimation in the tribulation lightning. Compared to those experts who were watching from afar, this tribulation lightning seemed to be quiet and ordinary. But so long as one knew the ins and outs of the tribulation lightning, one would know that the more it was like this, the more terrifying it would be. 10 minutes later, Lin Sun, who sat cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. His deep and calm gaze swept across the surroundings, and all the experts present felt a wave of palpitation in their hearts. It seemed as if his gaze could see through the secrets in their hearts, and it caused their blood to run cold. After that, they noticed that Lin Sun had changed. His temperament seemed as if it had been tempered 1,000 times, and it had lost its edge. He faintly revealed a transcendent aura of returning to simplicity, and he was like the full moon in the clear sky, clear and translucent. He passed another tribulation just like that. All the experts were surprised and bewildered, and they looked as if they'd seen a ghost. Even Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang were slightly dizzy. How could this be? That was the God Slayer tribulation, yet he actually passed it so easily. Chapter 576. In the void, Lin Sun's black eyes were shining like an abyss in the sky. His whole body was filled with surging divine brilliance, and there was a vague aura of Tao lingering in it. Above his head, the dark clouds were rolling like ink, and the destructive aura it released was more and more terrible. The world was silent, and the indescribable oppressive aura filled the 8 wilderness, which made all the strong men present stiff. Thunder tribulation, it was not over yet. Is he a human being or a peerless monster? He is just in the Tao insight realm. How could he trigger such a terrible tribulation? This was the thought of all the practitioners. They were puzzled because they had never heard of it before. It was too incredible and terrible. Boom! The 6th thunder tribulation came. The sound was like the sky was falling and the earth was cracking, and the ghosts were crying. The clouds suddenly turned into a dazzling scarlet color, and endless lightning broke out. It was the scarlet thunder tribulation, beyond imagination, with a breath of destruction and death, rolling in the depths of the clouds, shocking the world. Lin Sun let out a long roar. The aura around his body had climbed to the peak that could be reached at present. He had already stepped into the threshold of the Tao insight realm. His body was full of blood and qi, and all his potential was released at this moment. Even in the sea of consciousness, the power of the soul was running to the limit. The soul star was bright, guarding a moon, reflecting the sea of consciousness and bathing the soul. At this moment, Lin Sun felt a kind of unprecedented strength, which was beyond the past, full of disdain and confidence. Boom! A scarlet thunder fell like a dragon, but it was smashed by Lin Sun's punch, and the scattered thunder was dazzling. It was unbelievable. Seeing this scene, the strongmen in the distance were so shocked that they almost bit their tongues. Was he still a human being? This was the sixth wave of tribulation lightning, and it was scarlet red in color and boundlessly terrifying. Even if it was some genius at the level of a chosen saint, they would be heavily injured even if they didn't die if they dared to go head-on against it. Yet he was actually so heaven-defying. Rumble. There was another loud noise. The scarlet thunder was dense, one after another, like a scarlet whip lashing the world. But Lin Sun didn't retreat or avoid it. He rushed up and opened his fist. The fist roared and smashed all the thunder, turning it into a rain of light. Everyone's hair stood on end. Monster. This human youth was definitely a monster. Lin Sun had a strong premonition that as long as he survived this round of thunder tribulation, there would be a real qualitative change in his cultivation, soul, and physique. It was like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. After crossing the dragon gate, one could transform into a dragon. At this moment, he released all the potential in his body and used his peak strength to fight against the god's trial of thunder. He pushed his martial arts strength to the extreme. Although Lin Sun was fighting the thunder retribution head-on, he was not careless at all, because the most terrible thunder retribution was yet to come. If he was careless, he would be smashed to pieces, and his body and soul would be destroyed, because the aura of the tribulation was too intense and terrifying. How can he be so strong? As he continuously collided head-on with it, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel anxious and shocked in his heart. Even he himself had never imagined that this lightning tribulation would be so strange and powerful. Legend has it that in ancient times, only a few innate spiritual embryos born from heaven and earth would face the most terrifying tribulation during their tribulation. And now, Lin Sun also encountered a similar experience. It's getting more and more terrifying. Lin Sun looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Up until now, he felt strenuous and exhausted, and he'd consumed an enormous amount of energy. But the blood-red thunder retribution didn't show the slightest sign of weakening or dispersing, and this caused Lin Sun to sense lethal danger. It seemed as if the innate tribulation this time didn't allow him to take this step at all. Rumble. Suddenly, a blood-red sea of lightning seethed and surged in the depths of the tribulation clouds, and it caused a complete riot like a blood-red ocean that was pouring down. Shit! Lin Sun's expression changed abruptly because danger had arrived. An ancient tablet actually floated up into appearance from within the blood-red lightning, and it was dripping with blood and flowing with lightning while emanating a terrifying fluctuation of destruction. This ancient tablet was actually a thunder retribution. The expressions of the experts that were watching from afar changed indeterminately, and they didn't dare believe their eyes. Bang! The ancient tablet crushed down and struck down fiercely, and it crushed and collapsed the space in front of it. Lin Sun let out a long howl as he attacked with all his strength, and he didn't hold back in the slightest as he collided head-on with it with the intention of shattering it. The thunder retribution erupted, causing the space in that area to be in disorder, while a blood-red glow illuminated the heavens and the earth. The ancient tablet possessed an overwhelming strength that could destroy anything, and in merely an instant, it pressed down fiercely onto Lin Sun. Puff! Lin Sun's skin and flesh were lacerated, and he was badly mutilated. Under such a terrifying thunder retribution, he finally couldn't bear it and suffered a heavy injury. The ancient tablet was solid and bright. It was flowing with blood-red lightning. It was like a power that could suppress and destroy everything, and it struck Lin Sun unceasingly. The scene was so appalling that all the experts almost forgot to breathe. Originally, they came here to seize Lin Sun's good fortune, but they didn't expect that they would witness such a peerless thunder retribution with their own eyes before they could even make a move. An ancient tablet actually condensed in the blood-red thunderstorm. None of them had ever seen such a phenomenon, and it was too strange and frightening. Kill. In the void, although Lin Sun was bombarded and suffered a heavy injury, his eyes became sharper and deeper, and he fought back madly. Moreover, he had already begun to release the last of his strength to break through to the Tao Insight realm. Bang! The ancient tablet seemed to have a spirit, and it continued to suppress Lin Sun, setting off a sky full of blood-red lightning that constantly bombarded Lin Sun. After a while, the ancient tablet finally collapsed and turned into a rain of light, and Lin Sun coughed up a mouthful of blood. Many of his bones were broken, and his face was extremely pale. Did he get through it? When this thought arose in the minds of all the practitioners, they saw a terrible whirlpool in the thundercloud, rotating crazily. Whoosh! In the twinkling of an eye, the turbulent whirlpool actually swallowed Lin Sun's figure. Suddenly, many people exclaimed, "Thunder whirlpool? What's going on? Did that boy encounter a tribulation?" He was drawn into the depths of the thundercloud. How could he survive? All the overmatches were shocked and confused. The scene just now happened so suddenly that Lin Sun's figure was swept away before they came to their senses. They all realized that the young man of the human tribe was probably dead. The thunder whirlpool was too terrible. It was like a passage from heaven, and it wanted to obliterate Lin Sun and prevent him from going against the heaven. Is he dead? All the eyes looked up to the sky. To their surprise, the thick thundercloud didn't disappear. It covered the sky and floated in the sky, and there was still a deafening sound of thunder. All this seemed too strange and unknown. All the people looked at each other and didn't know the result. They could only wait. The depths of the thundercloud was like a kingdom of thunder. The terrible thunderstorm was surging like an ocean, rising and falling, and it evolved into purple, gold, blood, silver, cyan. It was gorgeous. The destructive atmosphere filled the sky again. From time to time, lightning could be seen transforming into swords, spears, swords, and halberds flying and whistling. It could also be seen that ancient tablets were condensed one after another, filling the thunderlock, flowing with lightning and releasing an almost world-destroying atmosphere. Boom! Lin Sun didn't have time to think before he started the battle, because as soon as he arrived, he suffered an unprecedented attack. Thunder saber, thunder sword, thunder spear, thunder halberd. It was like a sky full of peerless masters, and at the same time, ancient tablets rushed over to suppress him. In just an instant, Lin Sun's body suffered serious damage. His flesh was badly mutilated, his tendons and bones were broken, and he was about to be obliterated. It was too terrible. Who could imagine that the sixth thunder tribulation could be so strange? Damn it, am I really not allowed to continue to live? Lin Sun coughed up blood. He was so miserable that it seemed to be a problem to survive, let alone advance. Boom! An ancient tablet pressed down and covered Lin Sun's body. Lin Sun couldn't help but groan in pain. He felt that he was about to collapse. Not only his body, but also his soul was in danger. Son of a bitch, I don't believe that I can't kill you. Lin Sun's eyes were red. Under the fatal threat, he completely ignored everything and swallowed a Lantern King ginseng fruit. In an instant, his injuries all over his body recovered, and he reached an unprecedented peak state. His whole body was shining brightly. This was the magic of the peerless elixir. Just one fruit made Lin Sun recover in an instant from the brink of death. Kill! Lin Sun roared, his black hair flying, fighting against the thunder tribulation all over the sky. Ice Dragon Steps, 9 strikes of shaking heaven, Tianyuan saber play, negative bump, all the martial power was operated to the extreme. Boom! In the Thunder Tribulation Kingdom, Lin Sun killed alone. Sometimes he was like an ice dragon soaring in the sky. Sometimes he performed the fist Tao of shaking heaven, and sometimes he chopped out terrible saber light. He completely forgot everything. All the thoughts in his mind were to defeat the Thunder Tribulation and survive it. In this process, his control of martial arts was also improved by leaps and bounds. Ice Dragon steps became more unpredictable and mysterious, and the power of negative bump became more and more fierce and terrible. Later, he even displayed the 9 strikes of shaking heaven superimposed by the 8 forces. As soon as the fist was displayed, it had the power to destroy the universe and crush the mountains and rivers. Kill. Lin Sun became braver as he fought. All kinds of subtle meanings about martial arts emerged in his mind. However, the Thunder Tribulation was extremely terrible, as if it was endless. The ancient tablets were like a forest, suppressing from all directions. The thunder and lightning were like a waterfall, completely submerging this place. Before long, Lin Sun seemed to hear a faint sound of Tao. Then a blood-colored thunder and lightning turned into a spear, intertwined with the supreme order and law. It was like a spear of judgment, representing the majesty of heaven. With a puff, Lin Sun's body was penetrated. Lin Sun felt that his soul was almost annihilated, and his body was collapsing inch by inch. Son of a bitch! Lin Sun roared under the severe pain, and his eyes almost popped out. How could this be? Why? Couldn't God tolerate him? In the end, Lin Sun's black eyes flashed a touch of determination. It was obvious that his Thunder Tribulation was completely different from others. The only thing he could do at present was to fight his way out. This was destined to be the most terrible and dangerous way, but he had no choice. Boom! Lin Sun swallowed another king ginseng fruit and began to burn his body. At this moment, he was no longer angry and anxious, but became unprecedentedly firm and calm. Chapter 577. Kill. This was a battle of life and death. Lin Sun fought alone in the kingdom of Thunder Retribution. Around him, lightning danced all over the sky, which was a terrible scene. Every piece of his flesh and blood was healing at full speed. His strength was restored to the peak, and it was still advancing. Clang! The broken blade came out of its sheath and made a clear sound, filled with the Tao of water. Lin Sun performed the RFS and the moon-reaching move of Tianyuan's saber play to the extreme. Wherever the broken blade passed, it seemed that stars were falling one after another. The terrible breath of destruction filled the air and crushed the rolling thunder. After that, a divine moon slowly rose into the sky. Its radiance suffused the surroundings, and it was boundlessly pure and holy. The nearby lightning hadn't even approached it before it was completely obliterated. In terms of power, the RFS and the moon-reaching move were obviously different from before. They were branded with the Tao of water. When Lin Sun performed them with full strength, their power also changed dramatically. Such an attack could even easily kill a Tao Insight Realm cultivator. Moreover, in the process of the battle, Lin Sun experienced the tempering and baptism of thunder, so he had a deeper understanding of these two moves. The power he displayed with every movement could be said to be earth-shattering. Burning sun style. In the battle, Lin Sun suddenly roared, and the broken blade, overflowing with dazzling and brilliant light, suddenly slashed out. Under the slash, there seemed to be a blazing sun, burning fiercely, releasing the power to destroy the world. It was extremely bright and dazzling, brilliant and boundless. This was the third move of Tianyuan's saber play, Burning Sun. In the past, Lin Sun had been comprehending the meaning of this move. But because it was too difficult and complicated, it was difficult for Lin Sun to perform it, although he had some understanding. However, at this moment, under the fatal threat of the Thunder Retribution, Lin Sun burst out unprecedented potential and performed this move for the first time. In an instant, like a blazing sun burning and exploding, the nearby Thunder Retribution was burned up. Even Lin Sun was surprised by this amazing power. It was too strong. It was more terrible than the RFS and the moon-reaching move. It was a kind of peerless and overbearing breath of destruction, as if it could destroy and burn everything. Rumble. But in next to no time, the tribulation lightning surged into appearance once more. and it seemed as if it had been infuriated, causing its impetus to become even more terrifying than before. A myriad of ancient tablets appeared in a dense mass, and they seemed as if they were formed from the order of the lightning Tao. They flowed with dazzling lightning, and merely their auras were capable of causing others to be on the verge of collapse. Kill! Lin Sun roared angrily. His blood was boiling. He had already persisted to the last step. How could he be stopped here? He fought bravely, and every time he suffered a heavy injury, he would swallow a Lantern King ginseng fruit. He never gave up. This was bound to be a life and death battle, and it seemed to be dangerous and difficult. If it was any other cultivator, even if it was an extraordinary genius, the cultivator would probably be unable to persist a long time ago. In reality, if it wasn't for the Lantern King ginseng, even Lin Sun wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. That lightning tribulation was too strange and abnormal. It wanted to kill him and didn't allow him to cross it. Boom! After an unknown period of time, the densely packed ancient tablets in the Thunder Tribulation Kingdom no longer appeared. They all began to blur and turn back into the form of lightning. Crack! At the same time, a shackle in Lin Sun's body seemed to be broken, allowing his cultivation to enter a whole new realm in an instant. He broke through. A black hole was forming within his sea of chi, and it was chaotic within it. It seemed like an abode of the void, yet it also seemed like the embryonic form of a world. Pure and brilliant spirit energy flowed within it, and it was boundlessly vast. At this moment, Lin Sun's water, Tao aura, martial Tao energy, and cultivation source were all gathered within the chaotic hole. The chaotic hole rumbled ceaselessly, and it overflowed with a lustrous light. The aura of Tao aura and martial Tao energy were branded on it, causing the entire chaotic hole to expand ceaselessly. It was divine and magnificent to the extreme. Vaguely, there were even strands of the sound of nature resounding from within the chaotic hole, and it seemed as if ancient sages were sitting cross-legged within it and chanting scriptures. Rumble. In the end, a mysterious platform emerged from within the chaotic hole. It was clear like glass, and it was suffused with 3 strands of pure and holy mist. It was extremely mysterious. Heavenly Tao platform. This was the platform that only those with extraordinary talent could build with their own Tao foundation. It was the embodiment of the extreme sublimation of one's cultivation. It should be known that ordinary Tao Insight Realm powerhouses could only condense their cultivation into a platform when they reached the consummation of Tao Insight in order to consolidate and refine one's own foundation. But obviously, Lin Sun was very different. He had successfully condensed and developed a platform at the initial stage of Tao Insight, which was destined to be an extraordinary path. For example, the reason why Yu Shaosheng and Lin Lang could be selected as the son and daughter of Saint was that when they advanced to the Tao Insight realm, they were far superior to their peers, and they were the first to build the platform of self. Sitting in the Tao Insight represented a kind of transcendent foundation and potential. However, Lin Sun was different from Yu Shaosheng and Lin Lang. On his Tao Insight platform, there were 3 strands of pure and holy white jade light, which were lustrous and divine. This was the heavenly treasure light. Even in the primordial times, very few people were able to accomplish this, because this represented that one's foundation had been tempered to the extreme, and it represented the highest attainments in this realm. As the saying goes, Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. The heavenly abode Tao platform represented one's own cultivation, the primordial essence, or one. The 3 beams of heavenly abode light corresponded with it, elaborating on the wonders of the 3 that gave birth to all things. They resonated with the great Tao, faintly conforming to some sort of mystery. All of this was destined to be the embodiment of the strongest Tao. Lin Sun had a lot of enlightenment in his heart. The chaotic void was called Tao Insight, and it was branded with the cultivation of one's whole life. It was the foundation of one's Tao, and it gathered the original power of the Great Way, Enlightenment Method, Martial Way, and so on. All this power built the Tao Insight Platform, which was the embodiment of one's own cultivation. The stronger the Tao Insight Platform, the stronger the Tao Insight Platform, and the stronger the power that could be used. And the Heavenly Treasure Light was a kind of extraordinary embodiment, which indicated that one's Tao Insight path had reached the extreme and belonged to one of the strongest Tao paths in the world. This is the sublimation after the extreme perfection. As soon as I set foot in the Tao Insight realm, I already have a Tao foundation that others can't match. If there is no continuous accumulation and suppression in the past, I'm afraid I can't have such achievements. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. At this moment, he had become a great practitioner in the Tao Insight realm. His blood and qi were boiling rhythmically like lava, and his bones were crackling. He was constantly reorganizing and transforming. This was the brand new change after the breakthrough. It was like breaking through a life barrier and realizing a transformation. The original strong foundation and potential had all turned into the driving force of transformation at this moment. In an instant, all the injuries Lin Sun had suffered before were healed. His whole body was suffused with divine brilliance and lingering Tao aura. A wisp of blood and qi rushed out from the top of his head like smoke, broke through the clouds, and went straight to the sea of thunder retribution. This scene was extremely shocking. His heavily injured and broken body had all transformed like a phoenix being reborn, making every bone in his body holy and crystal clear and steaming with a precious light. On the other hand, his flesh and skin were translucent and crystalline as if they were polished from white jade, and they flowed with copious and irresistible vitality and terrifying energy. As for his divine soul, it had also become more and more powerful. Stars were circulating in his sea of consciousness, and the divine moon was in the sky. Starlight and moonlight were everywhere, which was magnificent. This was the Tao Insight realm. Now that Lin Sun had established himself in this realm, he could spy on the mysteries and mysteries of the great Tao and absorb the essence of the world. Although he was just in the initial stage of Tao Insight realm, Lin Sun had a kind of invincible belief at this moment. At this moment, he was as bright as jade. Although his clothes were stained with blood, he had his own disdainful demeanor. In the past, he had been suppressed several times. But now he survived the thunder retribution and stepped into the Tao Insight realm, which made Lin Sun's cultivation completely erupt like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time. This kind of supreme foundation after extreme sublimation was destined to shock the world. Boom! However, what Lin Sun didn't expect was that the originally silent thunder retribution suddenly broke out at this moment. The sky fell and the earth cracked, and the momentum was more terrible than before. A chain formed by thunder retribution swept out, intertwined with the supreme aura of order and law, and penetrated the void. Lin Sun was stiff all over. Before he could react, he was hit by the thunder retribution chain, and his skin and flesh were torn. Even so, he was seriously injured, and the newly condensed Tao inside in his body was almost destroyed. Puff! His figure fell directly from the sky. It was so miserable. How could he expect that he had passed the thunder retribution? But in the end, there would suddenly be such a terrible blow. If he hadn't reached the Tao Insight realm, the power he possessed had long been incomparable to that of the past. This blow alone could definitely wipe him out of the world easily. Pain. His body was badly mutilated by the terrible destructive power, which made Lin Sun angry and helpless. He could only watch himself fall. Fortunately, after this blow, the thunder retribution seemed to have exhausted all its power, became dim and blurred, and began to dissipate. In the nearby area, it had been a full hour since Lin Sun was drawn into the depths of the thunder retribution cloud. During this time, a group of strongmen was shocked and doubtful. The thunder roared in the depths of the thunder retribution cloud, and its power never dissipated. This made them realize that Lin Sun was very likely to be still struggling. Because of this, they all felt a kind of indescribable horror. If any of them went in, they would definitely die. But at this time, the young man of the human clan had not been killed, which was too horrible and simply against the natural order. At this time, they saw that in the depths of the thunder retribution cloud, Lin Sun's figure staggered down like a broken sandbag. His body was badly mutilated, his skin was scorched, and he coughed up blood. Obviously, he was seriously injured and dying. But when they realized that he was still alive, there was an uproar and a complete sensation among the strongmen present. He didn't die. This guy didn't die until the end, and he came out of the depths of the thunder retribution cloud alive. This was like a miracle, which shocked all the strongmen speechless. They couldn't imagine how Lin Sun fought against such horrible and strange thunder retribution, and how he survived. It was too incredible. Chapter 578. A human teenager triggered a peerless thunder tribulation when he was advancing to the Tao Insight realm, which was rare and terrifying. This was already surprising and shocking, but when they saw Lin Sun survive the thunder tribulation, they felt it was even more incredible. Who on earth was this guy? When did such a monster appear in the human clan? All the overmatches were shocked speechless. Whoosh! However, in this silence, a figure suddenly rushed out like lightning towards Lin Sun in the distance. This scene was so abrupt that all the overmatches were stunned. Immediately, they realized that although the human teenager survived the thunder tribulation, he was seriously injured and dying. Now was the best time to kill him. At the thought that the human teenager still had the great fortune from the sacred island of 5 elements, the overmatches in this area couldn't bear it any longer. The guy from the Wind Falcon tribe is really cunning. He should be the first one to attack. So what? There are so many competitors in this area. How can they let the Wind Falcon tribe take away the fortune? Kill. We must kill the human teenager while he is seriously injured. Otherwise, when he recovers, he will definitely be a formidable enemy. Loud shouts sounded one after another, breaking the shocking atmosphere in this area. All the overmatches were flying at full speed to where Lin Sun was. They were all overmatches from various clans in the Soul Oblivion Sea, belonging to the ancient remnant forces. Those who could enter the secret realm of Demon Saint were all masters. Today, they acted together for 2 reasons. One was to fight for Lin Sun's good fortune, and the other was to take this opportunity to kill Lin Sun. After all, Lin Sun's performance in the Thunder Tribulation was so amazing that they felt deeply threatened. For a time, this mountain range was filled with streaks of light that were dazzling and resplendent. They shot out from all directions in a dense mass, and they were like dense divine rays of light. Green Scale Clan, Demonic Elephant Clan, Sea Spirit Clan, Limu Clan. Damn it, why are there so many competitors? But the appearance of the overmatches from different clans caused an uproar in the field. They didn't expect that a human teenager would attract so many competitors. This shocked many practitioners. They realized that in order to fight for the fortune of Lin Sun, there was bound to be a storm of blood. Lin Sun was bleeding all over, and his body was scorched black. Lying on the ground, he felt a kind of relief after surviving a disaster, but also a kind of hatred for being plotted against. He'd never imagined that he would actually suffer a lethal blow at the last moment before the tribulation lightning was about to end. It was as if the heavenly tribulation was deliberately targeting him, wanting to catch him off guard and kill him. This is suddenly Lin Sun noticed that there was a piece of gray chain left in the Tao platform in his body. It was wrapped around the Tao platform and emitted a terrible aura of order and law, which was constantly eroding the Tao platform. The power of the heavenly tribulation. Lin Sun's face suddenly changed. He didn't expect that although the thunder retribution had disappeared, there was still a part of the power of heaven's retribution remaining in his body. This was tantamount to burying a source of disaster within one's body, and the slightest carelessness could lead to an unpredictable disaster. After all, the Tao platform of the heavenly abode was established from the foundation of the great Tao, and it contained the essence of Lin Sun's cultivation. Yet now, it was being bound by the chains of the heavenly tribulation and being corroded. This was equivalent to destroying the foundation of his cultivation. Damn it! Lin Sun looked up at the sky and gnashed his teeth with hatred. He increasingly felt that this heavenly tribulation was full of mysteries, as if it was deliberately targeting him. But soon, Lin Sun had no time to think about it. He sensed danger and suddenly got up. Not far away, he saw a figure rushing towards him. The figure was as fast as a ghost. Looking carefully, it was a wind falcon with cyan wings, sharp claws like blades, and an extremely strong aura. At the same time, Lin Sun also saw dense escape lights rushing out of the mountains in all directions, and they were sweeping towards this place in an overwhelming manner. They were the overmatches from all races. Was it because he made too much noise during the heavenly tribulation that led to this scene in front of him? Lin Sun's black eyes narrowed. Young man, leave the Tao scripture of the sage, and I'll spare your life. The overmatch of the Wind Falcon tribe had already rushed over. Although he said so, his actions were not polite at all. His wings set off a piece of cyan light, steaming with Tao aura, and rushed towards Lin Sun. In his eyes, Lin Sun had just finished the heavenly tribulation and was seriously injured and dying. It was undoubtedly the best time to kill Lin Sun and seize his treasures. Therefore, as soon as he made his move, he showed no mercy at all. Get lost! How dare you Wind Falcon tribe come here to compete for the good fortune? However, before Lin Sun could make a move, a ferocious green Kirin beast rushed over with a smelly smell and slapped the overmatch of the Wind Falcon tribe away. Immediately, a group of overmatches of the Green Kirin clan appeared with a roar that shook the sky. With a monstrous, murderous aura, the void was in disorder, and the leaves in the forest were dancing wildly. At this time, many overmatches who had arrived were shocked and hurried to dodge. But there were also many tribes who came to kill aggressively, not afraid of the Green Kirin clan at all. There was the Devil Elephant tribe, which was as big as a mountain and had a ferocious face. He stomped on the ground and smashed down the low mountains. There was also the Sea Spirit tribe, whose skin was glowing with blue water. They were very aloof, like human beings, but they had blue eyes and long golden hair. At the same time, there were also the Red Flame tribe, the Blackwood tribe, the Water Ape tribe, and other forces. All of them had gathered in groups, which was a spectacular scene. What a big battle array! Lin Sun stood there with his black hair fluttering. Although his clothes were stained with blood, he had a disdainful momentum at this moment. His black eyes were deep and cold like the abyss. Clouds moved in all directions, and countless overmatches gathered, surrounding this area. The situation suddenly became tense. Human boy, hand over the good fortune you got from the sacred island of 5 elements. An overmatch shouted. Why? Lin Sun asked expressionlessly. The overmatches sneered. In their opinion, Lin Sun's question was too childish and ridiculous. Why? Of course, it was because of his strength. A seriously injured and dying young human boy was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He was vulnerable and posed no threat at all. Get lost! Suddenly, an overmatch of the Green Kirin clan roared, releasing a terrifying aura that shook the wind and clouds. His eyes were bloodthirsty and terrifying. He stared at Lin Sun. Little guy, hand over the good fortune you got, and I can let you die with dignity. Green Kirin clan, do you think we don't exist? Do you want to eat it alone? Have you asked for our permission? An overmatch of the other clans said coldly with an unkind expression. Ho ho, do you want to fight? The overmatches of the clans confronted each other. In order to fight for the good fortune, they threatened each other and revealed their killing intent. They didn't give in. Everyone, why don't we kill this lad first, and then discuss the problem of fighting for the good fortune? An overmatch suggested, which was quickly echoed by others. They thought that they couldn't give Lin Sun a chance to breathe, and they should eliminate him as soon as possible to avoid any accidents. Shut up. What qualifications do you have to fight with us? Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame us for killing all of you. The overmatch of the Green Kirin clan roared, glancing at the crowd with a murderous look. Lin Sun stood there alone, listening to the arguments and threats of these overmatches. He had an indescribable sense of absurdity in his heart. What do they think he was? A prey that could be divided at will? Lin Sun's heart burst with killing intent. He understood that these guys not only came to kill him, but also to take away his treasures. Everyone, continue to talk. I'll leave first. When you come to a conclusion, you can come to me. Lin Sun couldn't help but speak. In an instant, the world quieted down. The eyes of all the experts present all looked at Lin Sun with a look of surprise. It seemed that they didn't expect that the prey still dared to provoke them at this time. Boy, you're really arrogant. Get over here and die. An overmatch of the Green Kirin clan shouted. Do you only know how to shoot your mouth off? Why don't you just call yourselves the Verbal Clan? Lin Sun frowned. The Verbal Clan, all the overmatches looked strange. Wasn't this young man afraid of death? He was already a piece of meat on the chopping board, but he still dared to be so unscrupulous. You're courting death. The overmatch of the Green Kirin clan was furious. With a roar, he slapped out with his palm, and a millstone-like palm print appeared. It was full of green Tao rime, which was enough to smash a mountain. This was an older overmatch with strong combat power. Many overmatches were frightened and had to retreat. They didn't dare to stand here in case they were affected. However, something unexpected happened. Lin Sun didn't move. He casually punched and collided with the overmatch. In the process, an unparalleled and terrifying force rushed out of Lin Sun's fist. It was full of destructive breath and directly drowned the overmatch of the Green Kirin clan. The void collapsed, and it was like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was just a blow, but it surprised all the overmatches present. What kind of fist energy was this? The power was so terrible that it covered the opponent in an instant. Boom! With a violent roar, the overmatch of the Green Kirin clan screamed, and then his body exploded. Blood rained like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. It was sad and terrible. Oh my God, wasn't he seriously injured and dying? How could he still have such combat power? All the overmatches were shocked. One punch smashed an old Tao Insight Realm overmatch. Who could imagine? Your strength is so weak. You really only know how to shoot your mouth off. Lin Sun's expression showed a touch of contempt. All of a sudden, the overmatches of the Green Kirin clan nearby were all furious. They immediately rushed up and used their strongest means to kill Lin Sun. This human teenager was so abominable that he insulted them as the Verbal Clan. They must kill him to wash away the shame. The power of a group of overmatches was naturally full of power. The void was vast and mighty, and the stones were flying through the air, rumbling. Although the Green Kirin clan was arrogant and domineering, they all used their full strength when they really fought. Boom! Lin Sun's eyes burst with cold, killing intent, which was extremely frightening. At the same time, he also attacked without any hesitation. Although there were enemies in all directions, he was not afraid. This was a kind of invincible faith and style. Similarly, this was also his first battle after advancing to the Tao Insight Realm. He urgently needed some opponents to prove to what extent his combat power had reached. Chapter 579. Boom! Lin Sun took a step forward and performed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. The dazzling fist power and dense Taoism poured out, forming a terrible vision of the collapse of mountains and rivers, and the collapse of the sky, and the collapse of the earth. Ah! The 4 strongmen of the Green Unicorn clan who rushed to the front all screamed in horror and confusion. Their chests were smashed, their internal organs burst, and their blood was dripping. This made people desperate and frightened. The battle had just begun, but 4 strongmen had been destroyed. Moo! At the same time, under Lin Sun's feet, a huge shadow of ice dragon emerged. It was snow white and icy. It raised its head and roared, hovering in the void, and its cold eyes were ruthless, overlooking everyone. Boom! The ice dragon rushed up, causing the void to burst, the earth to crack, and some nearby strongmen were defeated. They were scared out of their wits and turned around to flee. Unfortunately, it was too late. The ice dragon roared in the void, and with a flick of its tail, more than a dozen strongmen were swept by it. Their bodies burst like paper paste, and they died on the spot. This was Ice Dragon Steps, a kind of mysterious body movement, but also a kind of unique skill. When practiced to the extreme, the Ice Dragon would come out with a step, and it could suppress the enemies in all directions and not allow the foreign enemies to invade. After experiencing the baptism of life and death in the Thunder Test, Lin Sun had already deduced the mystery of Ice Dragon Steps to the extreme. As soon as it was performed, it immediately burst out with amazing power. "Come on, let's kill him together. Kill. Take away the good fortune of this boy." Many strongmen shouted. This time, they were really enemies in all directions. All the strongmen of various clans in the surroundings moved, and their figures flickered as they attacked from all directions. For a time, the world was filled with treasure light, spiritual weapons were flying around, and terrible rays of light crisscrossed and spread like a tide. The scene was terrible. It should be noted that the strong men of various clans present at least had the cultivation of Tao Insight Realm, and there were also some young talents and some veteran strongmen among them. Now, they moved out together to besiege Lin Sun. It could be imagined how shocking the scene was. The world lost its color, the wind and clouds changed, and the destructive aura raged, opening the curtain of a shocking battle. Whether it was to kill Lin Sun or to take away his good fortune, the experts of all clans didn't hold back. They were murderous and mighty. If it was any other ordinary existence in the Grotto Heaven realm, they would have been scared out of their wits at the first moment. After all, he was alone. Facing the siege of so many experts was enough to make anyone feel fear and despair. But Lin Sun was a special case. He didn't run away. Instead, he took the initiative to fight. Boom! His entire body surged with divine radiance, while strands of the aura of the Tao coiled around him like divine radiance. He held a broken blade in his hand, and he was like an immortal of the blade that was arrogant, otherworldly, and peerless. The Ice Drake Steps, which had been performed to the extreme, made his figure seem illusory. It was inconceivably fast as he repeatedly flickered and shifted. Every time it flickered, it would definitely cause a bloody scene. Blood rained down on the battlefield, and one expert after another was killed on the spot before they could even react. Some had their stomachs split open, some had their necks severed, and some had their bodies crushed. The scene was horrifying and bloody. These experts of all clans came for Lin Sun, so he showed no mercy and killed all the way. He pushed his martial power to the extreme and broke through and flattened the mountains. Between heaven and earth, the bloody mist lingered, and the sound of killing shook the sky. Although he was alone, he was like a tiger in a pack of wolves, setting off a bloody storm. Didn't he suffer from the Thunder Test, and was seriously injured and dying? Why is he still so terrible? As the battle continued, there began to be cries of unwillingness and fear in the field. Indeed, Lin Sun's strength and fierceness completely exceeded all their expectations. They thought he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Who would have thought that he had become a young devil in the blink of an eye? It should be known that he had just reached the Grotto Heaven realm. Under the siege of a group of strong people, he not only did not lose, but also killed all the way with irresistible force. How could not be shocking? Looking at the whole world, who could do this? Even if the holy sons and holy maidens of the various races were to come, it would be difficult for them to withstand their sharpness. Kill. If we don't get rid of this man, he is destined to become a big trouble in the future. Some strong people roared and realized the problem. Lin Sun was seriously injured, but he still had such incredible fighting power. If he recovered to his peak state, how terrible would he be? The killing continued, and the world was turbulent. The thick blood and screams mixed together, like a picture of purgatory. Boom! Finally, a tyrannical figure took out a big ancient seal, which emitted golden light and pressed down fiercely. The big seal was obviously a secret treasure, and its power was earth-shattering. As soon as it appeared, it produced a strange scene of ghosts crying and wolves howling, and blood raining. Kill Devil Ancient Seal, the ancestral sacred treasure of the Li Mu clan. Many strong people recognized it, but what made them disappointed was that the young man didn't dodge at all. With a single blow of the broken sword, the killed devil ancient seal was knocked away and wailed incessantly. There was no doubt that the broken sword was a secret treasure not weaker than the killed devil ancient seal. Otherwise, how could it be defeated so easily? Realizing this, many strong people were horrified. This young man didn't just have a heaven-defying fighting power. Even the treasure in his hand was an incredible secret treasure. Lin Sun turned a deaf ear to all this. His expression was calm, and his whole body was like a sun burning fiercely and shining brightly. He was using this battle to comprehend the power of the Tao Insight Realm, and he was deducing and examining his own strength to consolidate and refine his strength. After all, the Tao Insight Realm was a completely new realm, and even Lin Sun needed to adapt and control this new strength again. Kill! The Tao Insight Realm in Lin Sun's body roared, and the blood and qi in his whole body surged like a dragon. Every move he made released extraordinary power, and he was like a banished immortal, holding a broken sword and killing in all directions. This was the path of extreme sublimation, and it was one of the strongest paths since ancient times. It was extremely rare, and it was hard to find in the world. Since ancient times, no one knew how many amazing geniuses had been born, but only a small group of people could set foot on this strongest path. Most of the other strong people couldn't see this path. But as long as they set foot on this path, they were destined to be different from the rest of the world. This was the true path of a peerless genius. Under such a path, the other so-called geniuses were destined to be overshadowed. Absolute. With these two words, one could be called the king of the same generation, and it was the supreme power of the Great Way. The battle continued and became more and more intense. Within 100 miles, mountains were flattened one after another, and ancient forests were destroyed one after another. The earth was cracked, and the void was chaotic. Blood dyed the earth and the void red, and screams and shouts filled every inch of the place. Smoke filled the air, and the blood was shocking. When he was in the Sea of Souls realm, he already had the power to fight against me. Now, he survived the peerless thunder tribulation and stepped into the grotto heaven realm. In the demon saint's secret realm, how many people can fight against him? Far away from the battlefield, Saintess Limlang was bitter. It is indeed a little troublesome. No, it is very troublesome. This young human should be the supreme master mentioned in the ancient legends. He is invincible in the same realm, like a king who can suppress all enemies. If he is allowed to live, his future path is destined to be above all other geniuses. Yu Xiaoxing's face was extremely gloomy. He had read some ancient books and knew some secrets, so he could vaguely guess what kind of potential Lin Sun had now. This made him feel cold and fearful. He and Saintess Limlang did not participate in the distant battle out of caution. They did not want to expose their identities too quickly. But after witnessing Lin Sun's divine power in the battle, the two could not help but feel lucky that they did not participate rashly. Otherwise, even they could not be sure that they could kill Lin Sun. However, apart from feeling lucky, both of them felt extremely heavy. As geniuses, they were originally the holy sons and saintesses of their respective clans, and it was difficult for them to meet an opponent of the same realm. But compared to Lin Sun, both of them felt a heavy pressure and fear. I have to improve myself as soon as possible. Coincidentally, both of them made the same decision. Lin Sun's rise made them feel a sense of urgency, and they could not tolerate Lin Sun standing out on the Great Way. In reality, like the two of them, there were many strong cultivators hidden in the dark who had not participated yet. They were all the top figures of their clans. It was not that they were afraid, but out of a kind of dignity. They did not want to compete with other strong cultivators, so as not to bring shame to themselves. However, when they saw Lin Sun's peerless power, they were secretly shocked and felt threatened. Suddenly, Yu Xiaoxing sensed something, and his eyes brightened. That kid seems to be unable to hold on much longer. At the same time, Saintess Limlang and other top figures hidden in the dark also looked towards the battlefield. They saw that Lin Sun, who was originally divine, suddenly began to cough up blood. His brows were tightly furrowed, and his face was pale. Cracks appeared on his body, and his injuries were extremely serious. This also affected his battle, causing him to be in a perilous situation. After such a sudden scene happened, all the strong cultivators were a little surprised, and then they were overjoyed. This guy had been seriously injured in the Thunder trial, and now he was finally unable to hold on any longer. Lin Sun's performance just now was too fierce and disdainful, and it almost made them feel despair. Who would have thought that such a change would occur under the twists and turns of the mountain road? Ha ha! Some of the strong cultivators could not help but laugh, and the cultivators of other clans also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they gritted their teeth and rushed towards Lin Sun madly, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to kill him. It's time for us to act. In the distance, Yu Xiaoxing's eyes were cold and gloomy, and murderous intent lingered. Let's go. Saintess Linlang took out her blood-colored bell and floated out. Almost at the same time, some of the top figures hidden in the dark also realized that the real opportunity had come, and so they began to act without hesitation. In the battlefield, Lin Sun leaped up, displayed the ice dragon steps, and turned to leave. Like a dreamy ghost, his speed was unbelievably fast, and he fled into the distance. This scene fell into the eyes of the strong cultivators, and it further proved that Lin Sun could not hold on any longer and had to flee